Hello, internet friends. It is OOTP After Talk on a Tuesday night, because that's when we do After Talk. And tonight, I'm super excited. We have Seawit joining us, the data king himself, the data miner. Seawit, welcome.
Hey Ezra, it's good to be on. This is fun because I'm usually either going to bed or already asleep by the time you start the stream. So
Well, some would
um
argue so am I. Uh,
ah
it it is it's cool, yeah, because you are on the East Coast, obviously, but um, there's also sort of you tend to stream sort of sporadically. How do you kind of find the flow?
yeah, so part of the way I like to stream is I like to stream when I feel like I actually have something to say. I don't want to come on. I don't I mean, part of it is also, like, the PT content, like, it's different from, like, if you have your after talk show, other people have, "Oh, we're gonna do some games," like, FKN, "Oh, we're doing games from the league," there's a bunch of different stuff like that, people have sort of the consistent stuff, but, I mean, a lot of it's a mix of that where, like, I wanna come on where it's like, "Okay, I feel like I could come on and make content that I'm happy with." There's things I wanna build, there's things I wanna say, there's a project that I wanna do. Um, or, oop, froze up. Hopefully it didn't freeze up anyone on
No,
my
you
end,
you're,
but,
you sound fine. Is it is
great.
it is it
Awesome.
almost more sort of card dependent? Like, are you doing it around releases, or is it more sort
No, not
of? I mean,
really. Like, a lot of
it's
it is yeah. It's a mix of that and also, like, I don't have so much of a consistent schedule with, like, my time, so, like, I don't wanna
mm,
commit to saying it's like, "Oh, if I'm not in the mood," or, like, I have, like, a concert or something, I like to feel a little bit more like, you know again, it's like, I'll go on whenever I feel like I have, again, something to say, something to do. If it's building tournament teams, like, I don't wanna come on and be like, "Oh, what is this to do for, like, an hour?" Like, I wanna make it worth everyone's time to, like, spend time watching
what
me,
I
so
hear you saying is you have a life.
I mean, as a single person in my 30s, as much of a life as I could have in, that realm while also playing way too much of this, great video game.
Yeah, it's. I was this morning. I was like, wait a minute. Why am I'm like rebuilding a tournament team for the third time. I have to stop and maybe do some work. So, well, how did you find OOTP? What is your
Y
sort of journey to OOTP?
yeah, so the first time I ever played OOTP was during college, and hopefully this isn't something that's going to, upset a lot of people, but, that was around, teens, like PT 14-ish was when
Wow.
I was, doing stuff. Um, so it was just like I was a big baseball nerd. A few of like me and a friend were like, "Oh, let's play it," and we were like just messing with some, you know, franchise play. That obviously that was way before PT, but I did that for a little bit, and then
But
during the pandemic,
how did you find OOTP?
how did I find
Just
it?
on Steam or something?
I don't even remember. I think it was just like I'm just very online, and I can't remember
Mm.
if it was like my roommate that mentioned it to me, or if I saw it on like a baseball forum. But yeah, I don't know. It was just something that so it was like, oh, baseball, because I was the kind of person that when I played Madden, I would just sim through seasons. I wouldn't like actually play the games. I just like sim through seasons and do the free agency and do all
Right.
that. MVP baseball, I remember like all the like fake prospects. Like I remember like Matt Dirksen was
Yes.
like Hanley Ramirez and like
Always trade for,
oh,
there were like
oh,
three
I can't
guys you
remember some of
always
the other ones.
traded
I
for.
remember like he was the one that stood out to me because he was always just like a superstar. But like all those guys were just Jordan ahead. And I would sim like through like all their careers and see all these like crazy like Hall of Fame careers for like the fake Prince Fielder and the fake Felix Hernandez and the fake Hanley Ramirez and all that kind of stuff. So I've always been into like the whole like the whole like simming the seasons and doing that more than playing the games. So when I found out about it, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like maybe a friend of mine was like, oh, here's this game that does that. We should do it. And I didn't get too into it. It was more again just like let's sim 20 seasons in the future. And I didn't like
Mm.
making all the like the free agency moves, but like just kind of, building the team, making changes and such. Yeah, then fell off of that for a little while. And then when the pandemic hit, some friends and I were discussing, and we're like, let's do Perfect Team. And it was me and like three or four other people. Any of the other DCFC people prior to PT 23, because I was the only one left by then. Those were some of my semi real life friends. I say semi real life because I met some of them, but they're all people I originally met online, and we've had a group chat for like 10 years or so. Um, and we were all kind of like our own little clan because back then it was like, like DLL people and some of the other ones. I think BFF was still around there. TV might have been around. I'm not 100% sure. But we were just kind of our own little thing, and I got far more into it than they did, as I generally do with any of my hobbies. I fixate big time and get as into it as I possibly can. And I mean, I don't think you could get into PT any more than I already do. So
Yeah, it's true. I mean, as we'll talk about multiple times, you you built a website for Perfect Team, so you
yes.
know there's a whole thing. I have a guest on the East Coast franchise, so I'm being a kind host
Hmm.
to someone who has a normal sleep pattern. Um, it's interesting because I sort of missed. Uh, I am terminally offline, and so I missed the whole sort of clan era of OOTP. When you named them all, but there are all these sort of different groups that were doing things. Was that like how sort of not to try and create something exciting where really the answer is completely boring, but like how sort of tribal was all that?
So it was different back then. PT was definitely a little more elitist early on. I think actually the community has gotten a lot more open and more willing to share things in recent years. Like, I mean, basically, it was like there were these high level people, and they would make friends leagues in like Diamond. So there would be, you know, approximately 30 people that are all in the same group competing in the same Diamond League, the ones that weren't in Perfect League, and it would maybe be a tougher league than Perfect League was back then. I
Hmm.
remember there was one of the people that I didn't necessarily get along with, and I was put into that league one week, and I was like, "Oh," because this was like early on when like I wasn't spending money. My team wasn't great. I didn't know like so much, but like I got in. I was like, "Uh oh, I'm gonna have a bad week." And then I think I like made the playoffs like barely or like something like that. I was like, "Oh." I remember being proud that I like survived that
Right.
league. Like,
That's
and this is
a
again,
that's a
this was way back then. So
that's satisfying. Yeah, Hollywood. I'm calling it the clan era is really a ridiculous hyperbole. But in as see what's talking about it, sort of what 20 like right around the beginning of the pandemic or right before the pandemic. Um, Now you see people that have letters after their team name, eight Huddle or what is it, MVP, or there's a couple of them. But back then it was much more of a thing. It was again, it was not like Quake clans or anything like that where people or Warcraft or anything like that. But it was a thing, and some people took it more seriously than others. But it's sort of one of the things that I always find interesting, especially in online things like this, is the um I don't know, the anthropological sort of view of the community, and sort of the historical view of the community, because the community is a sort of self-creating and self what perpetuating organism that the game has very little control over. And you know, that community has, I think, transformed into one of the most positive internet communities out there. Which is saying, just saying a positive internet community is saying something, because the internet remains undefeated in having awful people doing awful things.
Mhm. Yeah, and I
Um,
mean, any internet community, especially a gaming community, is always going to have that. But again, one of the things that I have noticed over the last few years, and especially I've seen that this year, is that people are more willing to share information, more willing to help people. Early on, there was definitely people that didn't want to give up their competitive advantage by giving away like what players are good or talking about sliders or like a bunch of that stuff. But I definitely think, especially this year, there are multiple web apps that have shown up that's sharing data, and people just have been a lot more open. There's more content. Like I've always had the mindset that this game takes more than just knowing which cards are good to do well at, and it also um there are also all these sort of difficult gaps that the game has to getting these answers. So I've always been very for the proliferation of information, because I want people to have as much information so they could actually make the right choices. Because I don't believe that you can have all the data in this game and still build bad teams. Like I've seen that plenty. I've seen people who have every card, they have all the data, and they're still building what I would consider suboptimal teams. So it's like, if that's the case, like, why not help the people that might feel that there's a barrier to competitive success because, they don't have enough time in the day to like do all this data pull. They don't have the technical knowledge. Like,
right. They don't
the
they don't
more
have
that,
stats programs, you know.
yeah, like the more things that can allow people the comfort to play the game more and compete on a higher level, I think the game is more fun.
Yeah, and I think a lot of credit for that goes to folks like you, like Lap, like Smiley Face, who are um, intentionally trying to demystify the process. And I think that in the past, even in the fairly recent past, there's been more, let's mystify the process, my secret sauce and that sort of thing. I have a model, and we've kind of moved to a, let's pull back the curtain. Everybody has access to the same information, or versions of the same information. And now it's sort of, what do you do with, how do you use that information? Which to me is much more interesting than just, I have something nobody else has.
Yeah, and I mean, and you could even see it in the standings. Like, even with the more information out this year, we're still seeing a lot of the same players, doing well. Because, and this was sort of thing where people before were like, oh, well, combinators variants, they're gonna make, the game less fair and less balanced. However, it still felt like the best players were the best players. The players that were doing well were still the players that were doing well. The players that knew how to, build teams. They knew how to obtain resources. They knew how to win tournaments in order to keep building their teams. And I've always felt, again, it's funny. I've actually changed a lot on this the last few years, where um, I've actually gone more towards there being more of a skill, like ability to get better with roster building than I was a few years ago, because I've seen how, like, even as things change, even as, it would seem like there would either be larger differences or, closer differences. Like the fact that there was a low iron, no variant tournament that was still being won by the people that I would consider the best players, even when realistically it's as coin flippy
Right.
an environment as you can get. That was just super telling to me. That was just like, okay, well, if that's happening, then like there's still ways to like, gain percentage points by like making these like really small edge things, like just like building depth charts correctly and like making sure your fatigue like goes well and like that kind of stuff. I've gained a lot more appreciation for the benefits of that kind of stuff as I've seen sort of, the same people continue to win even through many different environments. And that doesn't mean that other people can't. It just shows that, like, there is such thing as a skill, you know, in building rosters and doing well,
Yeah.
regardless of sort of the card pool out there.
How I know that this is sort of a murky area for a lot of people. How
Mhm.
important do you think sliders are to all that? The strategy sliders.
So it's actually funny. I actually had there was someone on the forums. For some reason, I've been spending a little bit more time on the forums. I guess it's because I'm taking a break from the main Discord. But someone asked that today, and I have a video that I put out last year that's actually my most popular video by far. It's basically how to optimize your rosters. And part of that is actually saying most of the sliders don't really matter, but the things that will make the biggest difference that you can actually see are the stamina sliders and the base running sliders. The stamina sliders because you want to have control over, how long your pitchers are into the game. In something like caps, making sure your starters go as long as possible. In high offense environments, making sure that your bullpen guys stay in as long as possible, even if they're getting beat up, just so like over a long tournament, your pen doesn't exhausted. Like that's stuff you can actually see, you know, the impact of. Same with base running. You can see when you have a player that's getting caught way too much stealing bases, and you can see the impact of that. Similar with base running, you can see you can control your bad base running guys and your good base running guys. The other sliders are a lot more subtle, where like there are things that are going to be really hard to notice, especially over like a small sample, even like a season, like because a lot of those things, and again, I wouldn't call myself an expert on those. This is sort of taking sort of the things I know and other things. I'm sure there are people that have done more tests, but I think those are more trade-offs than like things where you're like actually controlling how things are. So like
Hmm.
I just think that it's like,
Unpack that. That's sort of that's kind of diffuse.
yeah, so like maybe there's like a slider where it's like, okay, like pitch around. That's something where I think it's like when there's like specifically like a good hitter up and there's like, runners on base or like something like that. And it's like, again, I'm not an expert. I haven't felt the need to like go into it because again, like as franchise said, like there's so very little impact, and like maybe it is, but it's so small that like for most people it's hard to really know that, and at that point it's just like, why make changes that could hurt you when it's kind of hard to see what the impact is. So, and I'm not saying that you can't gain impact, I just think it's one, very small, and two, not worth trying to put all that extra mental effort when there's already so many things and so many ways to either burn out or put your time into other things. That like, time is a resource, and if you're spending time doing things that aren't going to lead to large benefit, then why are you doing them, unless you have like a reason to do so. And I think like it's something like I spend a lot of time on the game, but like, if I don't, I don't set sliders for every perfect draft I do. I don't do individual sliders for most things. Like I set them in league because at least they're consistent. For PTCS, I'll go and do that. But like for normal tournaments, I'm not going to go in and do that because again, like something has to break at some point. I don't have infinite time, and I think that's something that kind of I think hurts people in staying in the game long term because they feel like they have to do everything to keep up and to win, and that just takes a lot out of them. So like I think that there's a lot of value to finding the things that are most important and spending the time on those, and then not adding extra time on things that will be of little benefit.
So if you were gonna sort of create a pie for a new player, like what would be sort of the time breakdown of how they could get sort of the most bang for their
Mhm.
theoretical hour buck?
Yeah. So, um, So part of it is also like, you could play the game in different ways. Like I, you know, there are you have to find some way to make perfect points. Like that's something you have to do. I'm someone I know people that have put like a billion bilers and trying to get cards like up early or flip cards. I'm not really a flipper as much. I'm more just like I rip packs, I sell cards that I have, I rip more packs, and like that, along with that, as well, as you know, being online when missions drop, being ready for live updates. Like you have to do that in some way. But I think there are multiple directions you can go in order to you know find ways to do that. Like, I don't think you need to, like, grind the card shot constantly to do that. Like, there are ways where you can, if that's not something you're interested in, you can find ways. Again, I think you have to find someone because to some degree, this game is, a resource game. Like, I know a lot of people come in and, and that's, I think, one of the tough things that I think a lot of players come in and start playing the game and have trouble adjusting because a lot of people I think come in thinking, "Oh, I'm playing this sort of online head-to-head baseball simulator game." When like usually what I like to tell people is it's half like resource management game and half card game. Um, and
like
just
Magic or something like that.
yeah, where really, I mean, if you think about it, all the games are is if you have your team, you have all these numbers, you have your opponent's team, they have all their numbers. You roll a lot of dice, and it determines a result. Like that's really in the broadest of scope, what perfect team is. Um, and like it's skinned the baseball to like pull people in, but like I think some of the mistakes that people often make are trying to play baseball as opposed to trying to maximize the outcomes of the card game. And I know that's not appealing to everyone who wants to like, oh, they see a baseball game and they think it's that. But like, I can only remember how I got on this tangent, but yeah, that's just it's just one of the things where it's like, there's a lot of ways to play this game. You have to kind of understand that, in order to do well, you have to get resources some way because you're not gonna, you have to get cards somehow. And again, whether that's playing the market, doing very, very well in tournaments, or a mixture of both, like I do, or again, there are things, like Fiend Team or packing other ways. Like I largely and I like to make sure people know this. When I speak about the game and I speak about my strategies, I'm speaking from, a high level competitive level. I'm someone, my goals in this game are, compete in as many tournaments to compete at league at the highest level and to do all that. I'm not optimal. There are plenty of things I do that aren't optimal because I want to have fun. And there are plenty of things that, maybe opening packs all the time isn't completely optimal at all times. But, I feel comfortable playing the way I do, and I always
Well,
like to tell
and
people, like, don't play games if it's in a way that isn't fun for you. Like, that's the
yeah,
most
yeah,
important thing. Play a game because it's fun.
yeah. Find a hook that is your entree into the game. And it
Yes.
might be, it might be. I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was last year, I picked up a Thurman Munson variant. Don't call them combinators. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to make a team based around this one card, and then I would sort of build it from there. And it can be as simple as that. You just find a card that for whatever reason resonates with you. And then you're like, I guess I'm playing Diamond this year or something like that. But finding that hook that will connect you to the game is, I think, maybe the most important part.
Yeah, and I understand it's tough where, like, you're like, "Oh, well, this gives me a ceiling at, like, X level with, like, the amount of effort I'm willing to put in the game or how I wanna play." And, I do think, people like Lap and EVC have done a good job allowing there to feel like more success even when you're not at the top of the pyramid. I think that's something that's a fundamentally hard thing to do from OOTP side because like I mean they are, you get your like gold league trophy, but it's like how are you supposed to like, make that super meaningful as, you're going up. But I think there's been really great community efforts in trying to help motivate people feel even in the middle of the pyramid or even lower in the pyramid that there are ways to like you know feel more than just like oh I won like a bronze league and I got like 1,000 perfect points from that or something.
Right. If you are the sort of person that is not happy unless you are winning perfect league, uh, this can be a really tough and maybe not fun game. But finding a different finish line, finding ways that you find entertaining to play the game is super important. And one of the great things about OOTP is that you can play the game so many different ways. You could have a very happy OOTP 27 gameplay life and never touch the base game, or never touch Perfect League, or never touch tournaments, and you've still had an amazing gameplay. And that's one of the cool things with all the different affiliates and how they play the game differently. You can get a taste for that. It sounds like when you were starting, you played a lot of base game.
Like, well, this was also before Perfect Team was even a thing, so that was really
Right.
my only real option. Once I got into Perfect Team, I, once in a while, like usually the beginning of the year, I'd do like one franchise and do it, but like it's not necessarily my favorite thing. I mean, the reason why I really like PT so much is it combines three of my very deep interests. I'm a statistician math nerd. I play card games. I was actually drafting the brand new Magic the Gathering set right before coming on the stream tonight. Um, and I like baseball. I've been playing fantasy baseball since I was like 12, 13 years old. I know we talked about how much you don't like fantasy baseball, but I've been into fantasy baseball for a long time. I was a
Mhm.
prospects nerd. I was posting on John Sickles minor league ball at the age of like 15 or 16 years old. Actually Granky, who is a really great community member as well, hosts my Discord, very great player. We found out recently that he and I were like semi enemies on this site like 15 years ago, where like there was like a group of rabble rousers. Me, a rabble rouser, who would have thought? But like we're making slightly inappropriate jokes about players, and the 60-year-old, this was like 15 years ago. This, older man, it was probably a little bit, socially conservative, or like wanted like more of a family site, wasn't a huge fan of us making those jokes.
You
And
darn kids.
like me and a few other people got banned, and I remember we had like an email chain like afterwards, and you're like, oh, this guy. And I was talking to Frank about it, and he was like, oh wait, that was your username. That's so funny, because he's like he and I are like very similar people. We get along so well, but it's just funny that like, oh, we happen to be like on the opposite sides of like stupid internet drama, like when we were both like teenagers.
The joys of internet drama.
Yes.
It is a thing. Uh, so you play the base game some, but really it's that second coming of when you come back during the pandemic and you discover Perfect Team, and that sort of Perfect Team and your group of friends kind of somehow connects with you. And so what is your sort of what's your sort of approach then? How do you go, like, is it from the beginning you're just like, I'm a data guy, or are you, in the beginning, are you playing it more like fantasy, or what? How are you sort of making, what's your initial play sort of vector?
Yeah, so I actually had a pretty interestingly weird trajectory in this game that maybe some people can relate to, but I actually don't know, because it feels like a lot of people kind of come in, at least for the most part, knowing what they want to do. So when I started playing the game, it was the beginning of PT 21, so like April. I think we maybe started like a weekend. Um, I wasn't on the Discord. I didn't know what anything did. We just, you know, I didn't watch Twipped. We just started, opening packs and putting players on teams and figuring out what we were doing. I think we were like maybe peaking at like silver or gold. A few months after that, they made this announcement that we are going to start giving away packs if you watch the Twip stream every Thursday. It's like, oh, we should go get all this free stuff. So we went. We started watching, you know, Chris do these videos where they were talking about the cards. found about the Discord, jumped in, kind of, I didn't know about tournaments. I don't know if I even played tournaments that first year. I didn't really know. I think maybe by the end, as people started talking about it, I was like, oh, well, I should do this because it's the thing to do in this game. But we were just kind of very casual. I think maybe I peaked at like, I think we got to Diamond, and when we got to Diamond, we got like crushed. We were like, okay, gold teams. Like weren't anywhere close to finishing missions. It was just like, we were just kind of doing it. And we didn't really know what we were doing. So then year two, PT 22, you start from day one. There's an announcement that there's this thing they're doing this year for the first time called the Perfect Team Master Series. And in order to join the Perfect Team Master Series, you had to be online at 12 o'clock on a Saturday to sign up on a Google form. And if you signed up on this Google form, you were placed into a 6 or 8 month tournament structure where there's a tournament every month, but only those 128 people that signed up on that day were involved in this entire cycle long tournament program. I'm so glad that isn't
Yeah,
how it
that
works
seems like a
anymore.
nightmare.
Yes. So we were just like, okay, like I think again there was like 4 or 5 of us, and we were just like, okay, let's join this because why not? So, we joined this. Again, we're not playing tournaments. I think we're like, doing bronze tournaments. Like, we're not really doing data stuff. Like, there's some people that are like posting things, but like, I'm not exporting data. I'm not collecting. I don't really even know, like, a lot of these things. The only data stuff is like, when like, the sheet back in the day. That was like the only kind of like data stuff I really knew. And I end up spiking the first PTMS event. It was a bronze tournament and winning. And then one of my other friends who knew even less than me got like top four. So there were two of us in the top four. And then the next event, so
So
like
I wasn't around for those. Were the tournaments was it kind of like a decathlon where there were different kinds of tournaments, or was it?
yes. So the way that PTMS worked that year was I think there were 6 events that were all very different. I think the first was a bronze, there was like a cap, there was an open. It was like one like every month or every 2 months for like the first like 6 or 8 months of the year. You got points. I think like if you won events, you were like immediately qualified, and then it was like the next wild cards. There was even like a wild card event where like my friend, he ended up qualifying for like a 16 team wildcard event to like fill in the last like 4 slots or something like that. And then there was a PTMS finals, which was, the people that had performed best out of that 120, like the top like 16 or top 32 or something, had one final tournament to like, you know, be the champion or something. There was also PTCS, but that was a completely separate thing where there was like 3 PTCSs every like quarter, and it was like a PTCS Gold, a PTCS Bronze, and a PTCS Open. And again, it was a sign up where you had to sign up for a specific tournament you wanted to join, and there was like a prize for it. It was just all disconnected. When Nico
What
came
a
and started
logistical
like,
nightmare for the OOTP staff.
yes, when Nico took over tournaments, he streamlined it big time. And the system has gotten a lot better since then. But yeah, so I just started winning things and started to do more tournaments, started to get more involved. The year after that, PT 23, that was when I won that was the first year that PTCS, PTMS were together. I won the first PTCS, won that Hugh Duffy card that was unreal. It was just, I used that card literally all year. That was the year I, spiked that PTMS. I won the Jackie Robinson, maybe the most powerful card that has like ever been in Perfect Team. I don't think that card is winning MVPs for me like almost every season. It was just stupidly
And it stayed
unbalanced how
late in the cycle too.
that card was the best card in the game from when it came out to the end of the cycle. There was never
Yeah.
a card in that game that ever surpassed that card. And then I won my first Perfect League title that year. I was not doing any data stuff at that point. I was just,
Huh.
looking at what other people were doing stuff. Like I was spending less money than I'm doing now. Like I think maybe I spent like $100 like early on. Like I was spending less money doing less data stuff, and still that's when I won, for the first time. And then just kind of as things went on, I'm just like, oh, I want to do this more. Starting streaming. That was mostly because actually the first time I ever streamed was me building that PTMS tournament that I won. Because I was like, oh, this big event. Let's. maybe people will find this interesting. And then I ended up, winning that. And then I didn't stream for another year, but then I got to the point where the next year I was starting to do data stuff. I was like, you know what? I want an outlet so I can share this with people. And then that kind of became a thing where like people were really enjoying it. And it helped that like, I was a community personality, I guess is what you could call it, where like folks knew who I was. So it was easy to be like, I wasn't just some random person that was streaming. Like it was nice where I'd be like, hey, you guys know me, I'm streaming, come hang out.
I think one way that you are maybe exceptional among our sort of affiliate streamers is how active you are in the OOTP. I mean, used to, not Discord so much anymore,
Mhm.
but on the forums and in the Discord, you are, I think, one of the more proactive people on the affiliate side in terms of jumping in and saying, "Oh, you have a question, let me answer it for you."
Yeah, I mean, I'm just very terminally online. It's part of my ADHD where like I need to always be doing like three things at a time. I know like I'm one of those people that like I was okay being on Twitter and like scrolling because it wouldn't affect me. Like I knew how to like block out the noise and like do that. I went off of it just because I was getting frustrated in some of the people that I was seeing, like even people that like I think I should be agreeing with, just like in the algorithm just pushing like stuff that was frustrating. But I don't know. I've always just been. I mean, as I've said, like I mean, I was posting on the minor league baseball site. I was posting on a pop punk emo site for years. Like I've always just been someone who's just when I'm involved in the community, I'm like very involved, and it's just because I'm just the kind of person that I'm very comfortable kind of chatting. It doesn't take so much energy, although it's probably does at some point. But it's always just been something I've been comfortable with, and it's just the constant stimulation and like
You were one of those AOL IM babies.
yes, I definitely am. Um, modern baseball, no, but I have seen them play house shows before. So they kind of became a thing I was super into after I was kind of getting over them. But I mean, hey, I live in Philadelphia, so of course that's my thing. So
Um, so you're playing the game that way, and then you start to stream, and like, how do you everybody, it seems like everybody has a story about, like, oh, and then I talked to this streamer to sort of say, how do you do it? So how did you sort of get the, I don't know, get the lowdown on how to actually get streaming?
um, I don't know if I actually really did so much. Like, I mean, I was hanging out on people's streams. Like, I still like like DRC streams like way back in the day when he was doing stuff and like kidneys and like other people, there are other people that are no longer affiliates that were doing the like data driven stuff, and that was kind of the stuff that was the influential for me because like there was a gap of people, and then there were the like I know when like Exto and Durden and Aster were doing like their stuff for tournaments, so like those competitive players and like after a lot of those players stopped streaming for various reasons or others, it felt like for a while there
That's a whole
was
different show.
yes, there felt like that there was a huge gap in terms of like there weren't like high level competitive players that were streaming. That's changed a lot in the last year. There's been a lot more people that are competing at the at the high level and trying to I mean so also just to clarify, competitive doesn't mean you're good or bad at the game. Competitive is how you're trying to play the game. Are you
Yeah.
trying to play optimal? Are you trying to like everything you do is because you're trying to win at the highest level? Like there are players, that are very good players, but maybe they're not putting, either the effort or because they don't want to, or for various reasons. So when I talk about high level competitive streams, I'm talking about a mix of focusing on how are we going to do the best we can in league and tournaments, and that's the focus.
Yeah. And look, I think one of the advantages of the tier system is that, again, unless you are wired in such a way that you're just like, unless I'm winning perfect team, I am not having fun. The game has a structure that says, maybe you're just the best darn gold player out there, or maybe live tournaments, find your niche and find a way to find your not to go all Marie Kondo here, but find your joy in the game.
Mhm. Yeah, no, for sure. And again, that's something where like Nico's done a great job in adding more of those things. There's just been a lot. Odeon, I actually disagree with that. You can spend time, and that's saying where it's like, I think Perfect Team is actually one of the most free to play friendly games that you could actually beat. Like, I don't consider it a pay to win game. I know that's a semantic thing to some degree, but in my mind, a pay to win game is a game where if you spend money, you will be better than people who don't spend money. That is not the
Madness,
case.
for example.
That is objectively not the case. It will allow you to get things without doing as much work or without, having to spend as much time grinding, but it's not going to make you better at the game by spending money. Again, if that was the case, then free to play players would never win Perfect League, and that's objectively, not the case. I mean, I spend money. I'm very open. I think it's good to be transparent about spending. I think, you know, allowing people to feel comfortable, with that. It's not about shaming free to play players or, spending players. I also hate the term whale because there's a lot of negative connotation there. I think, just the difference between, people who spend, people who don't spend. And
Well, and let's be clear, this is a business.
yes.
OOTP exists because um, wonderful, glorious idiots will spend probably more money than they should on those cards. That is baked into OOTP's business model. And so I'm a base game player mainly. I love the people that spend money on cards because they get me another version of the baseball game I love. So
Yeah.
I never think of it in derogatory terms. It is necessary to OOTP's business model. And I have a vested interest in OOTP sticking around.
Yeah. And again, there's also like a couple of things there where like, people, it's a hobby. So like there are far more expensive or dangerous hobbies than spending a little extra, money on like fake cards. Like
Yeah.
it's a hobby. And I think people are just like, will the cards go away? What's the point? It's like because you're having fun. Like, why would you go out to a five-star dinner as opposed to just like, eating some cheap fast food every day because you do it because you enjoy it and it's and I think people kind of lose that at times where
To
like
my mind, there's a big difference between you can spend money to buy packs and you can spend money to buy specific cards. Because
yeah.
having that like single, having like a magic card market or something like that, that's when things become kind of grossly pay to play.
Yeah, well, it's also kind of weird because I think there have been times in this game, and I think there are times in this game, every year, and I think they're doing a little bit better at where like it's almost not worth spending money. Like you are not getting anywhere near the gain that you would. And I think it's just hard because of the way that like points inflation happens during the year. And like, I think they've done better in terms of like kind of the smaller bundles where it's like, okay, now there's more motivation to like spend smaller amounts of money for like things like that are worth it. But like, again, there are times where if it's like, if you're not going to get your value out of money, then why spend it all? And like again, as you said, it's a business and like there has to be some way for that to give some advantage. And I think for decent parts of the year in decent in decent, times of the game's life cycle where like it's like why would anyone do it? And it's tough because again, you want people to feel like, that they can succeed at any level. You want it to be an acceleration mechanic more than a this is how you're going to win mechanic. And again, I think PT has done a pretty good job for the most part at having that be relatively balanced between spending time and spending money.
Yeah, and I mean, I look at even, you know, the sort of, we talked about a little bit, but even the sort of subversive kind of backlot things like packs only or theme team, to sort of find ways to be free to play and have still a satisfying competitive experience.
Yeah, because again, it's also like, you know, I don't expect everyone to have hours and hours and hours to build the game, play the market, and do that. So like again, there are people where it's like if you can't or don't want to spend money for whatever reason, and you don't have the time because you have a family or you have a job that prevents you from like being online all the time, like those are ways to do it. And I think one of the things is like people having realistic expectations based on their availability of resources, again between time and money, like knowing what's realistic from
Hmm.
what you're putting into the game is helpful, because I think the people that struggle the most in this game are the people that think they should be doing. They're like, oh, why am I not winning at the highest level? It's like, well, you're playing an hour a week and you're not putting money into it. Like, why should you do that over the people that are, playing 8 to 10 hours a day or putting thousands of dollars in? And I think that kind of like that's where people start to be frustrated the most, when those expectations are outside of the realistic realms of how good that you should do based on that.
I salute whoever that is spending thousands of dollars because, you know, you're the reason we'll have OOTP 28, and you're you've got more money than brains, and I love you for it.
Hey, again, I'd much rather be spending money on the game than like cocaine or something else like that.
Yeah,
So
at least you can do heroin, you lose weight.
jeez.
That's, I look, I have a 2000 board game collection, so that's where I spend all my money.
Yeah, and again, like people should have fun. So, and then we have El Sarda in the chat who actually kicked my butt in the live weekly earlier today in the semifinals. So look
I
at you
man,
kicking butt over there. So
live stuff is another one where the buying doesn't necessarily help, but I'm a huge fan of all the live tournaments. I'm a big live aficionado because I think it is a much more level playing field.
yeah, and I mean part of it is like again, there's fewer cards. There's about a ceiling on like how much and how many of these cards that how they can cost. The interesting things about the live cards is that they're a little flatter. Like there's not, that much difference. Like there's not, you don't get like the super splitty cards that you would in like the historic cards. I know that's something that I know Paul has talked about hopefully in the future having better with. Part of it's a lot of it because of the way the algorithms go and stuff like that. But I actually think the live cards are pretty interesting this year. I've had a like last year, I don't know. I just remember, I just feel like I'm enjoying them a lot more this year than last year, and I think that there's something to do to make them a little bit more dynamic, while also,
I
remaining
well,
accessible, like they generally are. So
the one thing that really jumped out to me, especially like in the first couple weeks, was the hits the historical cards were super splitty, and the live cards were pretty
hmm
flat. And
yep,
so that to me made live cards a lot more interesting.
yeah. Well, it's actually interesting because like there are pros and cons to having splitty cards, versus not. Like I think people um especially when they're like, and this thing that I probably do more than I should, but like they put we talk about how like you should build platoons, it's important to build. One of the things that one of my like number one strategy things in terms of like helping people kind of start to level up to the next level is saying you don't want to build a team of 9 starters and 5 backups. You want to build a cohesive team of 14 players and fill all your spots as optimally as possible. One of the things that I sometimes get into the trap is trying to force the best platoon guy on each side. But you also have to know they are going to eventually play someone, they are, especially if you're going against a team that's playing like 5, 5 righty starting pitchers, your guys who are bad against righties are eventually going to play against the righty. So
Yeah.
having these non-splitty cards or thinking about maybe I sacrifice a little bit one way so I can have someone who's when he's subbing in isn't just the worst option in the world. And you
Yeah,
know,
that's a huge point also because uh you know, we've all had the AI manager make decisions that maybe we would not have made. I'll just put that charitably. And platoons, I think, are like a multiplier for the effect of that.
yeah, I mean, and one of the ways that like one of the ways that I like to play the game is I want to give the AI as few decisions to screw things up as
Yeah.
possible. Like just minimizing, and that's also with like sliders and stuff. Where it's like just giving the fewest ways for it to mess things up is how I feel comfortable. I want to be in as much control as possible because I think that the decisions I make are better. So giving fewer places for it to go against what I want to do
Yeah.
is
The
how I
the
wanna play the
AI
game.
manager is 90% drunk Billy Martin and
Mhm,
10% sober Billy Martin.
mhm.
That was a joke for old baseball people.
Ah,
Uh, Firefly, we talked a little bit about. I'm assuming you're talking about sliders, and we were talking about sliders earlier. I always there's an apocryphal statement. I don't know who. I think maybe you said it, but just sliders will not win you a tournament, but they can definitely lose you a tournament. And I've always held that to be
mhm.
true.
Yeah, one of the things in terms of live, and I said that in the chat as well, the biggest thing with live tournaments that is a little bit different than other ones is all the pitchers are very low stamina, especially in drafts where you don't have control of like doing all that kind of stuff. So like I would say you're more likely to want to put 13 pitchers in, or like you want to make sure that your pitch counts are like pretty tight and stuff like that. As I think those are the ways that you can gain some of those advantages, just like making sure as much as possible that you know you're just not completely blowing your team's you know stamina and stuff like that. So I think that's like the big thing for like live in particular. That's like the big difference because yeah, you just really want to be careful with making
And I
sure that
I
you
think
don't blow your bullpen. So
like I would not mess around so much with the right side here, but the left side you should definitely mess around with.
yes, the left side is extremely important. The right side, again, I think the like stolen bases and base running, that stuff I actually care more about the like the individual players, like making sure that those are reasonable
So the
because guys
individual
are gonna
player strategies.
yeah, well, just for hitters and just for base running is really all I care about. Just because, you know, the you know, the AI is gonna run guys probably a lot more than they should. And, basically, if someone is going to steal at a below average rate, you just want them to not run at all. So
Yeah.
like, making sure you don't have these guys that try to steal 14 times and get caught 7 times. Again, those are things that you can have control over, as opposed to the other sliders, which you really don't have control. And again, as I said, one of my biggest things is I want to make sure that the AI makes as few mistakes as possible.
Yeah. And so the left side here is mostly stamina management and when it's going to rest people, because another thing the AI manager does that's fun is it grinds your players into the dust. And so setting levels where it will sit people, it will ignore them. Just to be clear, it will ignore them. But setting these levels and the numbers, I think this is an art, not a science, and you should figure it out for yourself. But somewhere in the 90s is probably a good start, just to have
Yeah.
that there.
Yeah, so I actually have videos both for hitting and pitching as well. Last year, and I did I did these videos to show people the examples of how to actually look at it, but I do always highly recommend people actually do these exercises and understand how the mechanics work. So like for hitting, the way of doing it is, have a team, don't platoon, just like play a bunch of starters and just watch by game what their numbers go down to. See like where like things start dropping off the cliff. Like I think like usually it's like for like a normal shortstop, it'll go like 100, 100, 99, 96, 70. So in my head, it's like, I don't know the exact, number change that like each stamina does. But in my head, it's like, again, I want to play I just don't want to take risks that it's going to make my players play worse. So ideally, and again, this isn't how everyone does it. This is how I do it. I want to bench people before they start hopping off, that cliff.
Yeah.
Um,
And have you found, have you, have we sort of quantified the effect of fatigue? I mean, I
it's
just
so
remember,
hard to
again,
do.
apocryphally, that it was just like fatigue is bad.
Yes, and that's honestly how I play. It's so hard to get the data to actually do that without manually logging like box scores and like
Mm-hmm.
looking at stamina before and after every game. It's just so hard to actually do that again, I just like thinking fatigue bad and try and minimize fatigue as much as possible. Like there
Yeah.
are people that like are like, and that's the thing where it's like there are sometimes, especially like cap tournaments, it's like I would much rather play a perfect card at, 87% in an important game than have, my 41 overall backup play at 100. Like there's some nuance there in terms of
Yeah.
like doing that, but in general, all things equal, I just assume stamina bad, fatigue bad, and try and minimize the low levels of stamina that my players will play at.
And then the two on top. This is another one. Pitch counts for your pitchers. Now, one thing I think that's important to always keep in mind is the era of whatever tournament you're in, because in some tournaments, dead ball, for example, 140 is they're just getting warmed up. We were, I don't know if you've, Max LP and I were talking the other day about old Haas Radburn, who has like 100 and something stamina, and he's putting up pitch counts like 200.
Yeah,
And
so actually, yeah. So actually, that was actually my most recent video. I did a pitch count video, and because I'd actually never looked at pitch counts and stamina directly, and actually, this is one of the plots I'm most proud of. But there's a plot on the video where basically you can see a very like distinct cutoff of where, s- based on each stamina, the pitch count in which a player in modern, of course, this is different in other eras and stuff. Um, I only did it specifically this video for modern, but I know Max was looking at it for some other areas, and I want to do it for some other areas. But you could basically plot out for any era if you know the cutoff of where after a game a pitcher will not recover to 100% on time. For older eras, maybe it's 4 days, maybe it's 3 days. It's all that. But I'm pretty confident that there's just like it's solely a pitch count cutoff for each stamina. And you could see like on the graph, like you could follow the line and almost like predict what that's gonna be for every stamina.
hmm,
And old Haas is just so high that like he could just actually go so much longer than everybody
right,
else. Which
he's
is, I
the
mean, that's
outlier.
good because like it's good that there's like a stamina impact. Now for years, it felt like it was a lot like harder cutoffs, and maybe we just didn't look at the data, but I really like how stamina has become a balancing mechanism in the game. Like it's a legitimately important thing when you have, a 60 stamina player versus an 85 stamina pitcher, where like, that's the difference of, the 60 stamina pitcher I'd say is probably like an 85 to 90 pitch guy. Why? Well, the 85 guy can do like 110. That's
Yeah,
huge in a tournament when like you're doing bullpen management. If you go 2 7-game series in a row, is your bullpen going to be totally exhausted? Like
yeah,
that's like the number one thing when building a pitching staff that you want to avoid, because if you have a tired bullpen, like people always are like, oh well, this pitcher pitched at 67% and still won the game. It's like, well, that's always going to happen. But I would promise you that if you looked over larger samples, and if you're a team that constantly has a tired bullpen, you will lose more games. I am 100% confident in that, even if, you know, an individual game, a team of tired players can still shut someone out.
Yeah. Friends, I pinned Seawit's YouTube page up top there. You should definitely go and give that a subscribe. You'll find there's like 10 videos there that will change the way that you look at some aspect of the game. It's really good stuff. And
I
then
appreciate it.
you should also, obviously, if you are not already, I think I can do a shout out again, but be following Seawit here on this lovely hellscape. Nope, I can't give him another shout out yet, but it's
Ah,
Seawit DCFC. Find one of his chats in here and you can just click on it and say follow. But he, especially around tournament time, around PTCS and PTMS, and then also I really enjoy the card review thing you did, like the cards of the year. That was really fun. And going through the opening card set in 27, those have been, I think, really fun streams that were enjoyable, even if you weren't like a power player.
yeah, that's something that, like, I know they've done that kind of stuff. Other streamers have done that kind of stuff before. Um, I definitely want to give shouts to Skyrolla for organizing that launch set one. That was definitely one that I wasn't planning on doing. I was thinking about doing, like, maybe a mid-cycle one and maybe an end-cycle one. But yeah, I mean, it's also nice where, like, when there's a bunch of smart players around and we want to, talk through, like, that's the kind of stuff that's better than a conversation than just me just like spitting off a list of players, like the conversations and talking about, why these cards are good, or like,
Yeah. Well,
like,
and the disagreements were interesting. I mean, there
yeah,
weren't a ton of them, but the disagreements were interesting.
yeah, and I mean, which is a sign of a good game when, like, there isn't just one way of doing things, and
Mhm.
like, you know, I don't think the way I think about the game is perfect. Like, I'm successful. There's always more I can learn. There's always cards that, like, maybe my model isn't, judging correctly for whatever reason. There's always, there's plenty of things about even like the game engine that, like, I'm not fully confident on. I'm still kind of learning and figuring out, and, like, trying to, like, find ways to, like, more accurately know how good a card is going to be from excuse me, from looking at it. So, yeah, I mean,
So,
I
and
think that
now
all
when
that stuff's
you,
really valuable.
from that angle, do you sort of get as granular as, say, like Franchise or Ripley in terms of deconstructing the actual game engine? You're more looking at the cards in sort of almost a vacuum, and the game engine is still the driving force of all of the stuff that happens.
Yes, so there are two different kinds of models that people can build in this game. There are what I do, where I do prediction models within a specific environment. So I, have, let's say, 100 bronze tournaments. It basically, will have like an average stat. I'm basically saying, like, in this environment with these cards, how will players perform? Then there's the modeling that I know Skyrolla does, that I know Max Oysters does, that I know some other players do, where they will basically try and reconstruct the game where it's like, okay, against X player, how will Y players do? So, like, for there, it's like the way you look at things is, instead of being like in a bronze environment, how is this going to do? Like, what Skyrolla does is basically, it's like, if we assume an environment where the average player is like, looks like this, how will this player do? So, like, will this player with 50 power, how many home runs will they hit against, you know, a pitcher with 150 HRA versus a pitcher with 100 HRA? So they do, like, some stuff where they actually do go into the engine, see how ratings interact, and then build their predictions from that. That's not the
Mm,
way that I'm doing it. Like that's kind of a different way. The way I do it, and like I know I could do it the other way, but I like the environment stuff because that makes it's kind of closer to what I do for like my job, like doing like regression models and that sort of stuff, as opposed to trying to do like these like more data sciencey kind of like things. So it's a lot of where it's just like again the way I like to do it, and I could, but like I've enjoyed, and like there are things that the people that know the engine better have done and that I've then inserted into my own things to try and make things better. So like kind of uh like Sky specifically, um when looking at those things was pretty confident about where the various cutoffs in the ratings are. So like I have plots that right now aren't on the app. They will be at some point, but basically I think for like every set, it's like at 30, 60, 80, 100, and 120, there are slope changes in like how much you gain in a stat from a specific rating. Um,
hmm.
so it's like, so
So
like
sorry,
that's saying that,
unpack that for somebody who's
okay,
maybe uh, sitting in my seat and not very smart.
yes. So like, for example, the way the engine for the most part works, let's just assume against a player, they have 75 of all of their ratings. So let's just assume something like that. You know, if you have, 50 power and you go against a player with 75 HRA, over a long period of time, you'll have, a specific predicted amount of home runs. Um, if you go 51, you'll have more by a specific, number. 52. So each point. By the cutoffs, what I mean is that at different points on that curve, if you're going against, a 75 overall, a 75 HRI player, at certain points, that difference will change. Because again, this is saying that like a human program, it's not just like random things are happening. The computer's great. It's like a human had to have been like, okay, this is what this,
Right.
like matchup is going to look like. And the way that we found the OOTP engine works is that at specific points, the gain or loss you get of a certain stat from having a certain rating changes. So basically, like, I think I was saying where it's like at home runs between like 0 and 20, there's like barely any change. Once you get to like 30 or something, the change goes up. Then I think it's between like 60 and 80, you get like the highest gains of like anything or something. I don't remember exactly what it is. I'm kind
Right.
of just like
But so there
spouting
are
off.
thresholds
Yeah,
essentially.
there are thresholds where each point changes its importance. So like one of the things that you could do is when knowing those cutoffs, you could be like, okay, once you hit those cutoffs, you know that maybe you're getting slightly diminishing more returns on a certain stat, or like, it's like, oh, well, for every point between 40 and 60, you gain a lot. So I don't want something below 40 because that 40, if you're even at 50, you've gained so much more between 40 and 50 than you did between 30 and 40.
So does that does that like and those thresholds, I mean, then of course, those thresholds meet the RNG
Yeah.
and all heck breaks loose.
Yeah. So like that's like one of the things where it's just like, I mean, there's always variance around numbers. I mean, the sort of thing where it's like, you know, and this is again why like to talk about that it's not necessarily a um baseball sim as much as it is, a card game. Because like in baseball it's interesting because it's like, okay, you have win percentages, but at the same time it's like if you're up 3-0 in a series, you're probably a much, much better team. And you're not really like flipping coins, like there's momentum, there's strategy, like in game. Like there are things where it's like, you know,
Ooh,
you're more
Seawit
like
taking the bold premise that that momentum exists.
yeah, I know people like, but like I don't know, like I just feel like I just don't think of each individual real life baseball game as as much of an independent event as games
Yeah,
in perfect team. And that's
yeah.
just like it's hard to make a game that is like that. Again, it's a game. It has to be programmed. There has to be rules. And I think some of the things that people struggle with, even in the base game, like, because again, I've been spending a little bit more time in the forums. I see people, it's like, oh, well, they're trading everyone, they're DFAing everyone. It's like, well, part of it's because these teams are keeping suboptimal players like in real life for various
Yeah.
reasons. And the game, sees these suboptimal players like, well, these players shouldn't be on the team. It's like, well, this player was good. It's like, well, based on the ratings, it wasn't. So because of that, it didn't give this player even the opportunity to hit well. But again, it's hard because again, you're trying to make, you know, algorithms that represent real life. And there's always going to be things in real life that would go against the sort of things that the assumptions you're making are.
As a base game player who plays every game, you really feel that, where, like, you start to create a narrative that tries in your head to find patterns in what is essentially 100 random data points. And sometimes it's really easy, and sometimes you're just like, what just happened?
Yeah. I mean that's the sort of thing where it's like I know one of the biggest things that people sometimes have issues with is like age decay and like having players in like as they go through their careers they're like, well, why are these players all falling off at this certain point, or like, oh, well,
Yeah.
there's this player in real life that gets better as they get older. Well, it's so hard to program in these things that are like the less likely scenarios. Like, how do you predict a player who is mediocre throughout, his early 30s finally becoming like a stud in his late 30s? Like that's so hard to do. And, yeah, again, it's just one of the things where it's like there were just so many things like, someone getting contact lenses or someone, meeting some yogi and I don't know, there's crazy stories that I'm sure real life baseball players have actually had that have made them better players. That's just hard to get when you're like having computers simulate the game kind of thing.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of the things where it's like, OOTP does an extremely good job, but it's never gonna be perfect because it's just so
Well,
hard to hit these rare
real life
random
has so
things.
much chaos in it,
Yes.
and baseball is probably the most random sport at a high level. And you could, even, I mean, you could play an entire lifetime of OOTP and never see Jose Canseco have a home run go off his head.
Yes. So yeah, it's again, it's just one of those things where it's just like, when you're thinking about the game, um, you just have to be always talk about how stats stats don't predict future stats, ratings predict stats. So like
Mhm.
if you have a player that's doing worse than he should, you shouldn't like be like, oh, well, this player's doing poorly, therefore he's bad. If he has higher ratings than another card, he's gonna do better in
Yeah,
the long term.
I really struggle with what the meaning of the snowflake and matchstick are, the hot
Yeah.
streak and cold streak.
As
Because
far as I'm aware, that is just an indicator of past performance, at least in perfect team. I think in the base game, I know like things like morale, I think there is some impact, but part of that would be like that would basically mean that if you played gym unknowns, your team
right,
would just be boosted for the rest of the time. And I haven't seen any evidence of that being the case. So
yeah,
I'm pretty confident that there's no like um indication that a hot player is going to perform better in the future is solely like the past.
yeah. And but again, your head creates those narratives, and you're like, oh, this guy's hot. We got to get him in there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I still remember, DRC and doing his streams, his fire like thing
Yes.
he would do, like and everything. It's just like, it's good for broadcasting, but it's not really, that meaningful for actually predicting what's going on. But good
So
for like some of
come
the
get
narratives.
some is asking what you think, what you found is the most valuable pitching rating.
So I'm gonna answer that question in two ways. I'm gonna start with the way that I always like to say, which is I personally don't like saying a rating is better than the others. Um, I don't like being very profile focused. I'm someone, if you have big numbers, it doesn't matter how you get good performance as long as you get good performance. Like, if you have a high enough home run rating that you allow close to no home runs, but have a pretty high BABIP, like, y- it all depends. Like, you could strike out no guys, but if you're always getting players out and never walking anyone and never letting home runs, you will do well. Part of the thing is that, if you're a silver card or a bronze card, you can only have a certain amount of numbers before you're, too good for that level. So that's where profiles come in, where it's like, okay, if you only have X amount of points put into a player, this goes back into the whole thing I was talking about, where like each point can contribute a different number of sort of statistic. If you have X points, with these X points, what contributes the most? One of the things I am going to say, I would expect a lot of things in the game to probably change in the near future due to all the bugs that there's been with fielding. Where third base defense is basically like everyone like everyone's playing with like a baseball magnet at third base,
Yeah.
which has been
And
lowering the
and
BABIP by a ton.
and
Yeah.
first base assists. Like like if you so again, I play every single game. I don't think we've seen three first basemen in 20 games to start the season actually touch first base. They throw the ball to the pitcher every single time. So first base assists are like way out of whack.
But so I've heard that, but my question is about that is, how does that actually change defense? Because I guess the reason why, and I know there's been a lot of talks about defense, how like, you know, second basemen are getting way more balls than they should, shortstop are getting way fewer balls. The thing that's been the biggest, at least, and of course there's small impacts here or there for sure, but like the thing that's been the biggest impact is that, again, third basemen are making 65% of the plays that they should only be getting to 20% of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Is
that's,
that
I'm pretty
range or
sure,
is that
no,
have
that's not range. That is literally just because I think the way it works is basically like when it is determined that, it's going to be a ground ball, it's going to be a ground ball to the third baseman. Then it like decides what type of play is it going to be. Is it going to be like a hard to get play? Is it going to be an easy to get play? And then it probably rolls the ratings and says, is this player going to get it? I mean, basically, again, even like the worst third baseman is still getting
yeah,
these plays that should be only got 20% of the time, 60% of the time. And it's funny because, one of the things when the advanced stats came out earlier this year, where it's like there was the whole, are these things real? Are they not real? Or is there impact? And it's one of the things where it's like, um, yes and no, where it it adds story, it adds color,
right.
it makes the plays make more sense. But some of these things, like where the ball goes, or like pitch counts, like these things are decided kind of afterwards, after the outcome of the specific play is decided. The game then creates the story around it.
Yeah.
um
Which is a
and
really interesting thing to wrap your head around if you're playing every pitch.
yes, so
Like
it's
to think like it doesn't matter because this has already been decided.
well,
That's
so the interesting thing about per pitch, and I know there's, because I saw some people discussing that, because they're like, well, how does this work if I do it every pitch and I have control? Like, if I, throw a purposeful ball, it's like, well, it hasn't been decided. It's like, and again, there's a lot of secrets around this game in the engine. They don't like to tell us. My guess of how that works is basically, let's just say you throw one pitch, um, it determines the outcome, but only brings you to maybe that first pitch of that outcome. So let's
hmm,
just say say pitch to the batter. It decides on the back end it's going to be a base hit at a 2-2 count, but it was the first pitch, so it only puts you at where that first pitch is. You then make another decision. It determines what that outcome is again. If that outcome happens on the second pitch, it'll show you the outcome. But if it's not there, that's just my guess. Like, I don't know for sure, but that just makes sense where like it allows you to do the pitch by pitch thing while also still being the game doesn't decide these things until after the outcome. It just kind of stops before it actually shows you the outcome, and then each pitch you decide kind of recalculates that. Again, I don't know that for sure. That just is what makes sense for me based on kind of knowing how the engine works, but also being like, well, it's not that pitch to pitch doesn't do anything. It does do something. But it's still at the same time determines the outcome at that point. You're just not seeing it all the way through.
Yeah, it's still mostly deterministic.
Yeah.
But that's always a weird thing to wrap your head around. Of that. I will say my own, like, not model based anything. I have found that I think that stuff has been pretty important this year. I feel like it's been bumped up in effectiveness. I mean, to your point, like, I think that anytime you're talking about what rating is most valuable, there's a perspective question, because if we're talking about everyone is purple, then the differences are going to be much lower than if we're talking bronze, where this guy is all stuff and no control or something.
Yeah, and again, going back to that, because I guess that was the discussion that got us to there. Because BABIP has been so low in general, and part of the thing is actually when looking at it, like BABIP is a really powerful stat. Well, pitcher BABIP is a really powerful stat, but hitter BABIP catches up at the high numbers we haven't really gotten to yet. So
Mm.
I think it's like one of the things where it's like that's why BABIP where some low BABIP guys have been good. One, because BABIP is already artificially lowered due to the defense issues, as well as the fact that we don't have the high BABIP numbers that actually start to like really start hammering down on lower PBABIPs. So it's the sort of thing that like it's going to change as the year goes on because again, as I said, the slopes change at certain points. The way ratings interact are different at certain points. Um, really, and I also say this: if you're not modeling, if you add up the numbers on a card, that will get you like 70% there of figuring out which cards are good. The cards that
So
have
just
the
the
most
total of
numbers
their
on the card
entire
will
ratings.
generally just literally if you add up the main ratings, that will get you a large part of the way there. To get the next
That has never occurred to me, huh?
Yeah, well, because in general, because again, it's like, you know, if a player has 500 numbers on a card, another player has 400 numbers on the card, even if what you think is like, this card is, more power or whatever, it's like, well, more points in the card is going to allow you to make up in a lot of those other categories.
Mm.
And basically, all linear modeling is then adding those numbers up, but then assigning weights to the certain ratings and going from there. So like again, adding the numbers up gets you, I think, like 70-75% there. Putting the weights gives you another, 15-20%. And then there's a lot of like, very small nuances that like get you like all the rest of the way there. But again, like you don't need to be all the way there to get things. And again, like I literally would say that if you add up the numbers on a card, you will already be a better player than if you're just going into things blind.
That has never. I'm Man. That is a great way to think about it. That had never occurred to me. Just like this person has 420, this person is 370. I'm going to take the 420.
Yeah,
Uh,
and like I don't think 100% of the time that would work, but I do think more often than you might expect it would.
hmm. How important to you is stadium choice?
Um, so it depends. Are you talking about stadium choice in like you
Like in a
choosing your own
tournament,
stadium
or
in
let's
league
say
or in
perfect team.
yeah, so it's two different things. As I've said many times, I actually have a video about stadium selection for league, where I actually think it's very important. I do think, and I haven't actually looked at this, there is an inherent built-in home field advantage. If you just look at any league and you look at people's home stats, they are just always so much higher than the road stats. And I don't think it's entirely stadium based because you see people, even in the neutral stadium, do much better at home than on the road. Um, but if you can maximize your win rate at home, like again, you want to be in as much control as possible. And like basically the like TLDR for that video is basically like if you think about the average team you're gonna play against, and you look at your team, and you think about okay, what separates my team from other teams? Like what cards do I have that fewer people are gonna play? And think about, well, most people are playing, 5 righty hitters and 4 lefty hitters, and I'm playing 7 righty hitters and 2 lefty hitters. Maybe you want to make those righties do a little better because, you are going to be gaining more from that stadium than others. But you have to also, again, know like what the you know, you have to kind of know like what the meta is, like what cards are people playing and what are your differences. Um, when it comes to like offense up versus offense down, one of the things that I like to think of, and this is just how math works, but if you go offense down, you are you are raising variance, and that's just how math works. If you have an event that only happens 3 times, 3 times a game. So let's just say like you made it so the average numbers of runs scored is 3 in a stadium, and then there's a stadium where it's like the average number of runs you get is 5. When you're at 3, if you think of like, a normal, the normal curve around there, you have less room to go because it cuts off at 0. It actually, because it's counted something called a Poisson distribution for count variables. But now we're getting into, stats 102 or like whatever. But like basically, yeah. So if you have lower numbers, and that's part of why this low BABIP, which is reduced offense, has actually made the game more variant, because with fewer runs scored, there's gonna be more close games and there's gonna
Mm.
be more coin flippy situations. So like
Yeah,
if
and
you
every
think,
run becomes more important.
yeah. So like if you consider your team weaker than others, maybe reducing offense to like try and play that variance more. Or if you think you're so much better a team than others, you think that you could outscore everyone and like over, you know, you know, basically I think you're reducing variance because you're just saying, oh, well, we're just gonna like have this team quality be a more important weight than like variance.
Huh. Yeah, wow. That is uh this poor theater major is now swimming.
Yeah, and I mean
So,
that's something else where it's like one of the things is like that's also why people get frustrated about home runs, because home runs are an outcome that doesn't happen very often relative to like walks and strikeouts and hits. So like what happens there is that like people are like, oh well, you know, there's just that's people's like, well, why are these players not hitting 50 home runs? Because when you have an average of 25 home runs, getting to 50 is really tough.
mm,
And just the way that things work, for rare outcomes, it's harder to get you know bigger numbers.
well, and if offense is being sort of uh,
Yeah.
uh, uh, knocked down anyway, then that is going to have a concomitant effect on the homers and stuff as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like again, it's it makes sense. Like if the average for a league is 25 home runs and the average of a league is 15 home runs, if you think about, again, the distribution around that, obviously the tail on the 25 home run one is going to be longer. The percentage that a player can hit 50 home runs in a league where home runs are average around 25 is much higher than one where it's around 15, just because, you know, there's further to go. You're more of an outlier. So obviously the chance of that outcome happening is lower. So that's just again what happens with kind of these rare outcomes. And that's part of where it's like understanding how like mathematics work helps you, because really again this is really just a probability game in so many ways. And like a lot of things that people get frustrated about are just like they're like, oh well, I haven't opened a perfect card in 500 packs, or like
Right.
oh, I got reverse swept for the second thing in a row. It's like, well, if you think about it, like if you flip 3 coins heads and 4 coins tails, like that's not really something that like you would be surprised at if it happened in that order. But like, yeah, it's just one of the things where I think people really struggle to understand probability. And I think that is kind of what helps me on two levels in this game. One, understanding that in terms of like knowing how to make my team better, but also the mental aspect. Like, I know people that burn out because they struggle to process that how much of it is chance and or what the actual chance of this was. We're like,
Right.
oh, I lost to this team. This team was so much worse. This game sucks because I lost the team that's so much worse. It's like, well, how much worse are they? Like, is it like, was this a 90-10 or was this a like, a 55-45?
Right. Well, and also, was it one game? Was it a series? What, like losing one game to anybody should not be surprising.
Yeah. And then
It's,
and then also the other thing is we watch more baseball in this game in a week than like there has been baseball in like human history. Like we watch so much more baseball that of course we're gonna see things that feel like unlikely scenarios. Like
mm.
unlikely scenarios become likely when you watch enough of it.
That's an interesting point because that is sort of the reverse sample size. Excuse me. We have such a large sample size
Yeah.
that, excuse me, they're down the wrong tube. But we have such an enormously large sample size that like outliers become much more likely.
Yeah. Like like you're going to go through a stretch where you don't open a perfect in 700 packs. Like when you're opening thousands and thousands of packs, it's likely at some point you will hit a cold stretch. But then you'll also hit stretches where like you'll hit three perfects in 25 packs. Like probably had both of those this cycle at some point.
Yeah, here. So if you're a person who's like, oh my god, my pack luck is so bad, track it. Keep track of like you can. It's actually much easier now that they have the like pack players that were in packs listed, and you can look and see like how long has it been since X happened and that sort of thing, and uh um and really sort of look at it in a long-term statistical sense, and you'll realize that outliers 30% is not a bad chance.
Yeah. I mean, one of my C-wittisms that I say quite a bit is rip through the variance because, eventually, you are going to hit that hot streak. Like objectively, it's going to happen. Like
But it might not.
if you're
That's
frustrated, well, but it will. That's just how it works. So like it's one of the things where it's like you're frustrated. It's not like eventually things are going to turn. Like you're never going to hit a big card unless you keep trying. Like it is going
yeah.
to happen, and like the more you do it, the more likely it is going to happen.
And again, that's the
Yeah.
argument for buying 100 standard packs versus buying 30 silver packs or
Oh
something.
yeah, I mean, I just rip standards constantly. I want to give myself the more. I think especially with like live updates and stuff. And again, like the specialty packs are more like whenever someone's like, should I buy a perfect pack or should I buy a spotlight pack? One of the things they say is if you hit the lowest possible outcome, is that going to ruin your game experience? And if the
Yeah.
answer is yes, don't do it. If the answer is no, have some fun. Like, sometimes, gambling with fake money is fun and like you
Yeah.
can.
If a perfect reliever helps your team, then fine. But otherwise, maybe a perfect pack is a risk you don't want to take.
Yeah.
It's I mean, so I play a lot of RPGs, and one of the RPGs that I play has a percentile based skill system. And
Hmm.
so, you have a shoot gun skill of 35%, and you're like, I got a pretty good chance at this. Like that's the mindset of the player in the game is like, this could work. And that's sort of the inverse of the OOTP problem of, this 35% should never happen. It's a weird place. Well, so here's the two things that I have loved about this conversation. One is that this has been almost a sort of oral history of a really interesting period in, I think, OOTP's online history. I think that's super cool. And then this whole kind of really diving into the numbers and the nitty gritty. And again, friends, Seawit's YouTube page is up there. I've also posted his website, which now let's talk this website for a minute here.
Mm,
Uh,
yes. Hopefully it's
let me
working somewhat decently today.
let me pull it. Let me pull it up here. Uh, 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 So if you've not been to, the only person that names things after themselves more than Seawit is EVC. So if you've not been to seawitstats.com, uh, it's it is a great way. Excuse me, I'm just going to go to dark mode, and thank you for having a dark mode.
Oh,
Um,
you should thank Lava of for that one. He was pushing me for like, okay, let me see what I could do, and then I did it, and it actually was pretty quick to get done. So
so this is a site that, well, walk us through. Tell us what brought this about, and then how much work was it to actually make this site?
yeah, so I had been doing sorry, Dylan. I had been doing again when I finally started to do this again, I was like, okay, I do this for a job. It'd be fun to like do something a little different and see how to do it. I was using it in R because that's the program I do. I was just printing out tables and just, doing my models in there, and it was kind of a pain. Um, when things like ChatGPT came out, I was like, huh, okay, is there a way to make this into like I was like trying to do like a shiny app, but it was something that I hadn't had much experience with. It's a lot of tough things. So I was like, oh, can you help me make this like shell of like an app? So I did that for my own personal stuff last year, and was showing it off on my stream and doing stuff. And part of it was like, I'm like, okay, I would love to have this posted publicly. Um, I had plans originally to have it done last cycle, but I wanted to make sure it was in like I wanted to like do it right. Like if I wanted to do it, I wanted to be the way that I thought was good. Um, so basically I used some of these, GPT, some of these LLMs to like be like, okay, this is what I want. Can we build this? And one of the things that I also like to talk about, the complications of like AI and stuff is that it's great as a tool and like it's been nice as someone who has the like relative expertise in understanding how things work because I've had to tell it no, you're doing this wrong multiple times. So it's great as a tool. I'm not worried about being replaced, and I think that like the reason why this is as it is because of my various expertise both in statistics and understanding this game. um, but basically, the whole structure is that I just have a lot of data. Um, a lot was mine. I have had a lot of help from people. I could not have done this without the community donating data and doing stuff. Um, but basically, I have team stats. So we can see win rates. We can see tournament win rates. Again, this is only of the data that we have collected. We have some things that is from the OOTP data dumps, but individual like player performance is something that we can only get from the actual data itself. Um, we have that. From there, as you can see, we have these player pages where you can see how a specific team has done in a bunch of different tournaments. If you click on a specific tournament, you can see like how the players are doing in all of those specific ones. And then if
For
you like,
that for that play for that OOTP player. So
yes,
this
you
is
could.
this is how Mickey Moniak has performed for me.
Correct. And then if you click on a Mickey Moniak there, it will then, at least it should, it might just be loading. Yep. So I'm still trying to figure out some of the loading stuff. It's a lot of data. It's really tough. And I guess that picture is going to stay and I need to figure out how to do that. But then it will show like every tournament that card has played in. So you could see, oh, there's this card I want. And one of the things I've actually talked with from some recommendations this week is like how can I search a player more easily so I can just type the player's name in and see all the tournaments they played in, kind of thing. Good to see that maybe this player picture bug is there, because that's something I know I can fix later. I know how to fix that too. But again, these are some of the things where it's like, I'm around, and if anything doesn't work or you have any requests on things you want to see, let me know, and I'm always happy to like see if I can build things in, because again, I want this to be a tool for the community and all that kind of stuff. So
So, what is, and here's where I'll show my lack
Mhm.
of awareness of advanced stats. What is the significance? Is that 600 at bats?
Yes,
Home run
so
for 600 at bats? Or
that was just one where it's like, I feel like it's not like the ideal stat in terms of stats, but it's, I think, one that's easiest for people to understand. Like, instead of like home run percentage, because like if I say a player has a 3% home run rate, like what is, like, off the top of your head, could you tell me if that was a good one or a bad one? I couldn't.
right.
But like
And
for
that
things
goes
like
kind
walk
of
rate,
back to the randomness thing again, where or the probability thing again, where we're
yeah.
just not good at nuance at that level.
Yeah, but the things like walk rate and strikeout rate, I think those are things that, at least at this point, people have a general decent sense of what a good one is and a bad one is. So like, I calculate, home run percentage on the back end for some of the more important things, but I think for the actual display, it made more sense for HRA, for 8 home runs per 600, so people can get a better sense. Or like for pitchers, I think it's home run per nine, because that's like generally the stat you'll see, on a box score. Because again, I want this to be, digestible for people, and you should be
Well,
able to look at this and figure out, be comfortable how good is a player.
and I think I think mission accomplished there, because like I right away am just sort of like, all right, so he's really done well in limited playing time in the high floor and iron floor and gold ceiling. And if you look at the gold slots, I'm like, oh, okay, he's somebody you probably want in the gold slots. He's
And then
had
you could also think of that, because that makes sense that he's playing up there because he's playing against worse pitchers more of the time. So
yeah.
it would make sense that his performance in that one, again, I don't remember what the run environment or the stadium is for that one. Maybe there's some impact too. But it's one of the things where it's like, this is also one of the things where people always ask me, what sample size is a good one for knowing if a player's performance is good? And my kind of competence to some degree is like, if the numbers look right, it's probably enough. If the numbers look wrong, it's probably not enough yet. Which, like, it's funny because it sounds so unscientific, but it's kind of the truth, where it's like,
You're never
you
getting invited to the Sloan conference.
but I mean that's kind of true, because like, if your priors are really the most important thing when knowing if, you know, this is what I expect or this isn't. Like, you aren't going into this not knowing exactly how a player is going to perform. You have a kind of a sense of what you're expecting. So like, if I 500 plate appearances, like, oh, these numbers look right, more than likely they're probably right. If a 5%, if at 500 plate appearances, like, oh, these players, this doesn't seem like what I would expect. It might not be at that point. Maybe it is, but like, maybe it needs a little bit more time. But I mean, that's, kind of the, like, Bayesian way of thinking about, like, the priors and your expectations are really important in understanding, is something real or is it not, and does it need more data to actually be that way?
But there's a weird kind of worm Ouroboros to that, because in some ways this is setting my expectation,
Hmm.
which speaks to my lack of a model and kind of that sort of thing, where actually I'm using your data to set my expectation.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that, so I don't have my model posted on the site, and it's not because I don't want people to have it. Some of the reasons are, you know, the the fact that the server costs, server things cost money, and like having all that. But actually, the biggest reason I'm not posting my models is because I know they're flawed, and I don't love posting flawed things without me being there to be able to walk people through. Like, I understand where my stuff might be wrong, and I'm always happy if someone's like, "Oh, what is, you know, like like can you tell me like on a model what is this card projected? I'm always happy to share that stuff, but I'm less comfortable with people taking their own walkthrough and taking that as fact when it's not. And this stats, I mean, at least there's, this is what has actually happened. You can see the like sample sizes and like kind of understand the environment a little bit. Obviously, there is, as you said, some expectation setting, but at the very least, like this is factual information that we're seeing
Yeah,
here. Like,
yeah.
and
The
the
number at a
models,
certain point, the number is the number.
yeah. And for the models, again, I just don't want people to be self-guiding themselves in the wrong way through my things. Like
So
I'm
like,
again, yeah, and you can't actually enter in through there. You
uh,
if you go back, like maybe I should have a way to do that, but
oh, is he just gonna stay? All
there we
right, good.
go.
He's gonna leave.
Cool. Good to know that that's not like fully a bug, but yeah. Again, I'm still trying to figure out like better ways of navigating things, and like it's sort of thing. It's like if someone's like, oh, it would be nice if I click on this and it brought to this page. Like that's the kind of things that I want.
Boy, my expectations were not met with Mickey Moniak and the Daily Live Gold.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of it's also like, are you playing him both ways? Are you playing him one way? Like, it's also hard without knowing the context of how a
Yeah.
player is playing, um, to do that. And again, it's one of the things where it's like, when you see large amounts of stats, the context matters a little bit less. But I know there's been people, it's like, oh, this variant is hitting worse than this base card. Is there a bug in the game? And it's like, probably not, but, like, one of the things it's like, well, if someone has a variant, maybe they're playing that card both ways because of either higher investment or they see the bigger numbers, but they're bringing it down
Mm.
because, they're playing, also, like, if you're a better player, you're maybe going deeper into tournaments and maybe you're playing against harder competition more often. Like, there's a lot of reasons that you have to, like, sort of understand the context of why things are. And again, like there's so many moving parts, and the data's hard because like every tournament's different. Time happens. Over
Yeah.
2 weeks, different cards happen. Metagame can shift and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like
that
a,
like you
a
still have to
meta
be
gold card gets released, and all of a sudden that changes everything.
yeah, you still have to be able to understand the context around this, which is again why I'm like the more information that I could show people and display, the more I don't feel like I'm giving up like a large competitive advantage or anything because I still think you have to be able to understand the context. And I'd much rather people have the tools to make the correct decisions as
Hmm.
opposed to people feeling like, oh, I don't have the information to do so.
Great question from franchise. How do you scrub gem unknowns? Is that
Yes. So actually, it's funny. That reminds me that I actually wanted to change things slightly different. So the way I've been doing things is I have like a run scored cutoff. So like I think right now it's set at 8, which is much lower than previous years due to the thing, which is crazy because I played some gyms in a tournament I won and I was at 7.8 runs a game, which is like ridiculous low. One of the things that I realized I should just do is
those are the best gem unknowns ever?
I should just do outliers. I should just do like in a specific tournament, we could get an average. If you are X points above that average, then you're probably playing gyms or something like
So
that.
so essentially, your gem unknown coverage is algorithmic.
Yes. So basically, what I'm doing is I am removing any team that hits a threshold that makes it feel like they're likely to have played gyms
Mhm.
and removing those stats from the specific player data, but not getting rid of their win rates from that. Because I mean, maybe it's a little less, but like I don't know. Think it's fine if Jim Unknowns to be involved in like 4 wins in someone's overall tournament win rate,
Hmm.
but like it impacts the players so much more. So
That's really interesting. And uh, are you so you're the gym unknowns? The other thing that I think, how are you kind of normalizing for um, like openers and things like that, or is that even statistically relevant?
I'm not. The only time that really comes into things are when like
when
I'm
Max is
doing
involved?
I'm doing like I have a thing where I have it like on like the pitcher slide, you could click like starters or relievers. Basically, I'm just like filtering out any occurrence where a pitcher is both a starter or a reliever. If you like go off of here and just go to like the regular, just like pitching page. Um, if you go to the pitching page, you could see on the left there's that like that pitcher roll thing. So like you see pitcher roll, starters basically only gets instances of players when 100% of that time. So by an instance, I just mean like a when you export data, each row is a team tournament. Like that's the indicator. It's a player on a specific team in a specific tournament. That's the kind of the raw data. So any instance when starter, if they relieved a single game in that instance, it's been taken out. These are just specific team player tournament instances where a player started 100% of the games. And then
Hmm.
for relievers, it's just when they didn't start one. So like it does weird things
Okay.
with openers where like it'll technically an opener is a start. So like it'll do weird things there, but it's not enough for me to like, you know, and like obviously I don't have split data, which is really frustrating. But again, I'm not letting perfect be the enemy of good here, which is
Yeah.
also tough because I'm someone who, as a statistician, I hate using bad data anywhere. That's like my number one thing. Like I don't want to like show off bad data or like do things poorly, but I know I have to for this game because if I don't, then I just wouldn't have data at all. Because bad data is around for a lot of reasons in this game.
Kyle Hendricks matching Haas Radburn for innings pitched per game.
Well, I mean,
That's
well, I
surprising.
mean, I mean, those numbers are high anyways. I'm assuming early gold. I mean, here, click that pitching summary up top. So if you go up, you click that show hide pitching summary. Yep. I'm just curious. Okay, it is 1920, so that's why. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So everybody's pitching long. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we have the average? Let's see, average runs per game.
Yeah. And so if you click that show relative to default, so it's that yep, click that again, and then you see that one that set relative to default button next to your modifiers. So you see up right there. There's that button. So you see your modifiers above the go right, go down. There's a button right next to the 1920. You see the 1920?
Good Lord, oh, here it is.
Click
Yeah.
that button. Yes. So that actually shows the relative difference compared
Okay.
to
Compared to the
what
normal era.
the 2010
Oh man,
is.
this is hugely useful. Wow, this is great. I didn't even
Yeah.
know this button existed,
Yeah. So that used
and
to
I've
come
used your
down,
page.
but when I and then I thought it just made more sense to keep that hidden so it wasn't like blocking all the players. But
Mhm.
I wanted to get this stuff in. So like yeah. So this is just because I feel like anytime I'm in, I'm usually in the roster builder when building this, and these information isn't in the roster builder. It's like I want to go to
Mm.
3 different websites to do this when already looking at this to make my decisions. So but again, a lot of this stuff is also like things that people recommended. They're like, oh, I would love to see X. And I'm like, okay, I could do that. So, I mean, I don't think most of the sliders again make that much of a difference. That like I think overall there's just not enough. Again, you know, I'm trying to do something where I can see like basically like if you click old hoss, then you can see all of the different old hosses from different teams, and you can see the differences. I'm not saying that I don't have yet, but it's saying that that's on my short list of things I want to add in. And I think that might be useful because then you could see, oh, this one is an outlier or something like that. So again, there's a lot of features I want to put in. There's some plots that I have put in because I love plots, and I think there's a lot of things that would be interesting to like show some people some things.
I'm
But again,
fascinated that Old Hoss is starting 100% of the games in the Diamond Cap Daily.
well, that just means no one. Well, that makes sense because who is putting an 89-point starter in their bullpen when he's
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
best starter. So like it's one of the things where it's like, yeah, that just means people probably been making good decisions because that probably feels like a waste of points to put him in the pen. And also,
Huh,
this is also only over the last 2 weeks. I have
right.
recently changed it so it um, at least defaults at the last 2 weeks. I want all the data to be accessible, but at the same time, I don't want people to, you know, have data combined all the time that would be, poisoning your data set to some degree.
And you can set a start and end date here,
Yep.
so you still have control if you really want to do the load time of a month's worth of data or something.
Yeah,
Knock
I think
yourself
I'm
out.
I'm I'm at over 2 million rows in this already.
Oh, jeez.
I have something where it's like I've at like 1,500 bronze quicks. I'm at like 1,300 silver quicks. We have every weekly so far. I mean, you can see we have 32 early golds. Like
Yeah.
again, and this isn't just me. This has been the community has been amazing. On my
Yeah,
I call them my data monkeys.
because you can be part of this website.
And I would love for folks to do this. The biggest thing I would do first, um, there is a guide there. There's that the guide. Honestly, I could probably make it a little bit better, but I'm always there to answer questions. I've made this a lot easier than it used to be. A lot of it's just like having the correct view and knowing how to name files right. But the data entry sheet is the big thing because that's the one where you can see which things people have already filled in and which things people haven't. So like if there's like a daily that like the people that have been contributing data, that's not when they play often. I would love that. The more stuff we can get, the merrier. We have a ton of quicks and like it'd be cool to have all the quicks, but also like we already have a ton of data there. Really
Right.
the dailies are kind of the biggest thing that I would love to fill in some of the gaps with. So like if you're
And
someone,
so if you come down here, you can
also
see the one.
just FYI, we can't see that currently. We can only
Oh,
see that page.
share
So
this tab. Here we go. Bam.
yes.
Uh, so now we should switch here. So just to show, I was looking at the overview here. I clicked on the data entry tab. Now I'm looking at the overview, but if you come down here and click dailies, you can see the date and the tournament of what they're missing. And if you were in that tournament, you can export. And again, there's a button there that tells you exactly how to do it. You can export for that tournament and add data to this website. You can be part of the data solution.
And if you're afraid that you're not doing it right, I have a lot of checks and blocks to do it. And again, like there are links to my Discord on the app. That's a great place. I'm always around and happy to answer questions. You could DM me. I again I'm doing this, but again, this is a community project, and I want this to be useful for everyone as I it possibly can be.
I might just be downloading one right now because I think I was in early gold 38.
Nice. Yes, you just want to make sure you have the correct view of uh
So let me share. I'm gonna let's make this a teachable moment. And I do want to be respectful. Seawit is on the East Coast and does have to work tomorrow, so we're going to let him go soon. But I'm just gonna check here. So if you saw something on that list, you would go to your tournaments, and then and then you can filter. Where's the filter? Well, let's go
yep,
all
you want to go
titles. Gold. Okay, daily early gold 38. Yeah, this is it.
yep.
All right. So then I want to examine.
Well, also assuming that it's completed. I don't know if it's actually completed or if it's in I guess it's early goals. So it's probably way done by now.
I think yeah, because this is from the 21st. Boy, my data is really going to help. Uh,
It's everyone's data. It's not just yours.
right, right. And let's see now.
So
The
then you would
X.
go it. So you would go into tournament. So you go tournament. You go statistics. You load. Then you click sortable statistics. And then so you see there's that view. So you have the view on the left. So before you would update, again, you probably aren't going to be doing this right now, but I have either
Yeah,
if you
on
don't
the
have
web
views, you
page.
have a download you could do, or you can manually go in and select the columns. But once you have all the columns selected that are the specific ones I need for my export, then you would go in, click that report button, and
Yeah,
then click
and
export
then
as CSV,
and
which would
then yeah.
then write a file to your computer. It says the address it is. From there, you would get that file. You would rename it based on what it says in the entry sheet, and then you would be able to upload it from there. Again, the
Yeah,
biggest things are making sure you have the correct view. Again, the document says
the
that,
stats you need. So you'd
yes,
essentially customize a view
yeah. And
that would,
like I have a way where like you could download a file and put it in your OTP folder. It would replace the views you currently have though. So if you
oh,
have
nice.
things that you don't want to lose, I wouldn't do my method. But if you don't have them, then yeah.
Yeah, that's nice that you can create that there. So yeah, you can be a part of helping to get a more complete data model for CWIT's website. And again, the link is there. And I'm going to run back to that website really quick because it's time for one more. I love a cheap plug. So, two things you should do. One is bookmark this site, just obviously. The second one is buy CWIT a cup of coffee. Just if for the use that you're going to get out of this website, totally worth it. Totally, if you're able. Look, if you're able to do so, and you totally should because of all the hard work that he puts into this. Well, I, we had so much cool stuff to talk about that we never even got to the 9 innings draft. Well, we'll have to have you back on because
That would be
there's
wonderful.
a ton more stuff I think that is really interesting to talk about. I also think it would be really interesting to do kind of a what my thoughts were on on sort of the engine and the stat stuff at the beginning of the cycle and at the end of the cycle, like what that evolution looked like. I think that could be really cool
Yeah.
to talk about. And
I
friends,
I I wonder if it would be fun for us to build a tournament roster together. I wonder what that would be like.
well, so actually, I would bring back a season one shtick, which is, do you have like 10 minutes?
Yeah, I have 10 minutes. I could
All
do
right.
that.
So I in season one, I did the Franken draft, which is we are going to draft my 5L team together.
Okay.
And so we are going to alternate rounds.
Okay. I will also say I have not played the 5L once this year.
Good. That's the whole point of the Franken
Yeah.
draft.
Okay,
So
let's do it.
it
And
is a
the best thing about this is that means you're actually going to draft it today.
right. Yes, I'll remember. No, the
That's why
5L
you
I
want to do
always
this.
remember. The 6L I'm less good about.
Got it.
So just as a reminder, this is the laptop's lower level leisure lounge. It is a dead ball tournament. You're only going to have 22 players. You
Hmm.
probably only need 7 or 8 pitchers.
Hmm.
That has actually been a big challenge because the card pool as it is right now, we've not gotten to the point where Nico's able to taper draft pools.
Hmm.
So the 5L, you're getting like 50 pitchers given to you when
Hmm.
really you need only like 30 or something. But that's just
Hmm.
where we are in the card pool.
Yes.
Uh, I have been on a weird run in the 5L. I am somehow in the top 10 right now. So don't mess this up for me, CWIT.
I will do my best.
As the guest, you get first pick. If there's any
I
player
get
you want to
first
look
pick.
at, let me know.
Okay, so let's see. It's always
So
harder because, you know,
do you have a sense of a dead ball shape you like?
yeah, so I mean, stuff is irrelevant. HRA irrelevant. All looking Abbott probably number one, control number two for
Yeah.
for pitching. For
The other
bat,
thing
similar.
that I find is irrelevant is fly ball, ground ball.
So that is largely irrelevant just in general. Last year, fly ball, ground ball was more relevant with home runs. There was actually an impact where if you had two players with the same HRA, but one was a fly ball pitcher, one was a ground ball pitcher, the fly ball pitcher would allow more home runs even at the same HRA. I've not seen that to be the case this year. Um,
Interesting. So
yes, I
maybe
have.
don't be afraid of those extreme fly ball guys.
That was the first thing I looked at this year because I
Yeah,
wanted to see
yeah.
if it carried through. I just haven't seen the same impact. But let's see. So we get one silver here. Um, So yeah, so for bats again, BABIP. I honestly, the thing about power is, if you have really high power, you're still gonna hit home runs.
Yeah,
Like home
you're just going to hit
runs, wow,
3 and lead the tournament that way.
yeah, which is still somewhat relevant. Can we look at Bobby Wallace real quickly? Bobby Wallace, bottom left hand corner. I feel like at least in general, he was
So
big gab, good BABIP. I mean, this looks like a pretty decent profile because again, like ball's gonna be in play, so because there aren't home runs, getting extra doubles and triples feels a little bit more relevant. The avoid K isn't as home runs, you kind of lose some of that relevance there. The defense isn't great, especially third base short. Although again, with the third base bug, I feel a little bit less
yeah,
bad about
he's not
having a
going to play
bad.
shortstop.
So like I kind of like this as a dat profile. Definitely
I
wouldn't play him as a shortstop, but that's a maybe. Um, Grandal, I hate taking. I don't really love taking a catcher really early,
yeah
but but I do like the big eye. He's gonna walk quite a bit. The top
yeah
part is a little, but like I think. I mean, he's just generally a good card too. Like I'm one of those like I take. I want to take good cards as opposed to think about positions sometimes. Let's see. Dozier. Can we see Dozier? I think he's the other one I'd be thinking of here. Um, and
nice
yeah, I
BABIP.
mean, this card looks good because again, the avoid K doesn't matter as much. He's not very splitty. You could stick him at first base, third base, or honestly, right field with a big error. That's nice in
Yeah,
the old
in
ones.
dead
Honestly, I
ball. Yeah.
think I think Dozier may be the guy. I'd be between Dozier and Wallace. I think we go Dozier here. I like his
All
flexibility a
right.
little bit more too.
I 100% would have taken Wallace, but I'm a gap and speed maniac in this
Mhm.
tournament. I'm a big Casey Candel. So we alternate rounds is essentially.
Yes.
I'm a big Casey Candel fan. I like his versatility. And neither of these catchers really do it for me. Jose Offerman. Uh, no. Lopez. Little gap power and speed. Not terrible defense. I can see that happen. Let's take a look at the pitchers real quick. The guy traded for Jeff Bagwell is not interesting. And they're all HRA guys, which we don't care about. So I think I'm going to take Candel over Lopez
Yeah,
just
I
for
mean, I mean, I
versatility.
think I think he's a really good card. One of the things that I think a draft like this is a little tougher because he's a platoon guy. You really don't want him playing versus right, but like you're
Yeah.
really not gonna find places to platoon. But I think just in general, he's still just the most powerful card there.
Well, and see, I'm going to turn that around. I think if there's one tournament where you can platoon, it's a tournament like the 5L where you're going to have, you know, 17 to 18 position players.
And it's not like you're having a gold versus an iron, like
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
silver down, it's a
yeah,
lot flatter.
yeah.
So like there's more ways you can build a platoon. And actually this might be a decent pick 'cause I think at least just looking at this offhand, my eye first goes to Craig Reynolds. That card is an extremely good versus right guy, although I think it might be mostly avoid K. I know he has good defense. Yep, so top row,
Oh,
second from the
Craig
right.
Reynolds.
Yep,
For some
Craig
reason, I heard
Reynolds.
Frank Reynolds.
Yep.
Yeah, I
I
see what
mean,
you're saying. Yeah,
this card is a VR card. Again, the avoid K makes it a little tougher because again, that's kind of a bad stat here. But like he has a lot of flexibility, big range versus right. Actually, just opened a variant of him, which is exciting because I think that's a very strong card. Um, but he's someone who could potentially platoon with Candel.
yeah.
Um, Kuzava is someone I think I like. I need to look at his profile. I know people like him in bronze. Um,
That's very splitty.
yeah, so he's splitty, but again, he's it's a reverse split. And
Yeah,
as you said, because people are playing 17 or 16, 17 hitters, he's probably gonna face mostly righties. So
yeah,
even with the big split, I still think it's a pretty decent chance that he's going to be with his strong side. And he's actually a very good bronze pitcher as well. Um, even with the weird splits. He has
mm,
low stamina, but again, in the old era, it's not going to matter as
yeah.
much.
It won't matter.
I don't really
This Bart is not
recognize
is
a lot of the
strangely not
cards
a bad
offhand.
dead ball catcher.
Ooh, yeah, with the low avoid K, it doesn't matter, but the big
Yeah,
BABIP, yep, big eye, yeah,
and some
that looks like a
high.
pretty good card. Built stock, is he the one with a bunch of power and low BABIP? No,
Yes.
it's not that card.
Well, I mean, he's got some power. He's got gap
Yeah,
power and speed
that's
at
not the
least.
card I was thinking of. There was someone I
Yeah.
was thinking that had like 30 BABIP. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a fan of just taking the best cards. I think Reynolds and Kuzawa are the two I would take here.
Okay. There we go. Oh, I love this Jahmai Jones, and it's all gap power and speed related. I take him in every. I should look on your website of how he's done because I just reflexively.
I don't have 5L stats. Honestly, the only draft I currently have, just because drafts have issues with like rotating stadiums and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I have all of EVC's bagels because we are the official stats sponsor of the bagels and schmear.
He's got to put
So
his name on everything. See, now this is an example of a
oh
guy that
yeah,
the 5L
that
is
card.
like the only time you want to take him.
Oh yeah, that card is nuts in this format.
Yeah.
I would
So I
start him
think
too, even with the 49 stamina. Yeah,
I'm
that
going
card
to
looks
take
incredible.
Jahmai and Tyler here. All right, this is your
All right,
round.
it's my round. I'm assuming Brandon Marsh has good BABIP because historically he does, though I don't know if this old Brandon Marsh card does.
He does, yes,
Ooh, yeah, this card looks very
and
good.
a
Except he
little
has no
gap power and
defense,
speed. However, no
non-existent
DH.
defense, non-existent defense,
That's
and no
the
DH. That makes
16
it tough.
outfield error gives one pause.
Yes, for sure. Let's see. Yeah, I don't recognize most of these cards. Which generally isn't a good sign because that means I don't use
Yes,
them
because you
anywhere.
know the cards.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna take my boy Dicky, even though, Dicky
Not
Love Lady, so
Yeah, it is. It is quite a name. We need him,
yes.
and if we can get him and Emerson.
Mm. Well, I'm just happy that Paul, because I think that was my recommendation. I
I
sent
think
him
it
the
was.
tweet.
Yeah, you
I sent him
you
the
brought
tweet
up the
in the
Emerson
chat.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's all Void K, which isn't good. Dessins could be a maybe because I know he loses stuff and stuff. He's also again another reverse split guy. He kind of
Yeah,
looks awesome here because he looks like one of maybe the best pitchers you could
yeah.
get
I mean,
versus left.
one of the tricks here though is like most of his numbers are in the thing the tournament doesn't care about: home run.
Well, not really because if again he's going to face mostly lefties. So if you look at
Uh,
his just versus lefty, he has
yeah.
106 PBABIP and 83 control, which is really nice. And even versus right, and again, I talked about how PBABIP is strong even at the low levels. Um, so I think he's an easy choice here. We already
All
have
right.
well, except the thing is, so this would also be this is three starting pitcher format, right? I know I always had trouble. I haven't played anything as low as 14. I think it's either three or four. I think three people have said works. Um, but what does Pablo
We're
Mesa look like? We're
we're
also
getting word from a local that the Nationals are emphasizing Richard Lovelady.
uh that's not his preferred name. I don't like people going against people's preferred names. Come
Yeah,
on.
this is
Yeah.
not
It's not
not a
great.
great card.
Yeah, this is another tough one. Um And we're also have to think about timing too. I mean, this card's I mean, Lane Thomas seems decent. He's flat
Yeah,
profile, but
I
like
mean, there's a
kind of
lot of.
decent.
That's another
Yeah,
thing about the live
I think I
cards is that they
like
have
Thomas more
gap
than
power and
Friedel.
speed.
I mean, we're not gonna want pitchers anymore. What is I think we looked at Pearson already. This is a pretty bad pack. What does Naylor look like? Yeah, that's all avoid K.
Yeah, Naylor's not great. It's
Nah, not
power,
really.
which we don't care about. I think Thomas might be the
Yeah, yeah. And
or Marsh
we're
if
moving
we.
through time, so I think we take Destin Thomas.
All right. So that is three pitchers.
Ooh.
All right. Hard to
So
pass up.
well, actually,
Oh,
Harshman.
but no, he's not great for the 5L.
Yeah, but Harshman sure is.
Yeah, Harshman is a waggy mainstay. Um, again that reverse split.
Yeah, that card is nuts, and he has a bat. But we also
Yeah,
don't need pitching anymore, or we don't
yeah.
need
I mean,
starting pitching immediately. Like we're not gonna need pitching, but
yeah, I like this Eddie Brassoud. mainly for the defense, but
Hmm.
also some nice gap power.
Yeah, I think he's someone you
Uh,
want more at second as opposed to short. The range is a little
very much,
low.
yeah. And I'm just going to make sure there's nobody else here that Jackie Hayes. Jackie Hayes, gap power and speed, but I just don't love that.
Yeah, I mean, remember, I guess, this is a 22-man draft, but we don't have to like really prioritize all the like two-way stuff as much when you only need to get like 8 pitchers. That's like 8 pitchers and 14 bats. So
Yeah, I'm thinking I usually go 7 or 8 pitchers because I
I don't
go a
know.
three-man rotation.
I don't know. I don't know if seven. If the game like seven, I always try minimum of 8, but I also haven't played formats this old a
Yeah,
lot this
it's
cycle.
fine with 7, but
Okay.
so this is your round.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna ask what Joe's doing over there, but um, yeah, so we need. All right, we only have
we
4 catchers left.
do
So
need
I want to start thinking
catchers.
about that. What
This
does?
Al Lopez has been a surprisingly nice find.
Yeah, I mean, big
Seven
blocking, which I think is good
plus,
because I think there's more wild pitches back
yeah,
there.
plus
Um,
defense and
yep.
and a bat.
Yeah, I think Lopez is pretty good. Um, maybe Luke Keishel. Hopefully,
That's a
franchises is
nice
here.
dead ball
I
shape.
don't want to give him another thing. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that looks pretty good. We could play him. He has the flexibility too. He's decent outfield
yeah,
range.
he might be a better outfielder than an infielder.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we still need a
All right.
first base. We still need some pitching, but
You
yeah,
know,
I kind of like
I
this, and we
my
got to keep
argument
moving
is
around too.
first base comes pretty organically.
Yeah.
One of my 37 outfielders will play
Mhm.
first base. Let's see here. Yeah, all we need outfielders more than infielders.
Mhm.
But Perez is not terribly exciting. He does
Mm-mm.
have gap power and speed and pretty good defense, so he might be a pick because I got to take 2 of them.
Sure
That
do.
is, that is the universal truth. Andrew Walters is better PBABIP. Mm. CJ Abrams is not terrible.
Yeah, that looks pretty good
Good.
versus right.
I
And again,
like
he has
gap
the
power and
flexibility. He
speed.
could probably play pretty much anywhere. So
I think I'm going to take him and Phillips.
sounds good.
Bam. All right, round the 9th.
Still in the
Baby
bronze
doll.
rounds. All right, we still need 2 to 3 more pitchers. We need another catcher. There's 2 more.
Is that a
I
reverse?
mean,
No, that is. Oh, that is a reverse.
yeah, I mean, when PBAP is the most important thing, that's nice.
Yeah.
But again, I would prefer to spend these picks on the hitters as opposed to pitchers because the pitchers aren't
Yeah.
going to play much,
Yeah.
and I'd much rather get some of the. I bet
This
Chandler
is-
Simpson is probably really good.
Yeah, that's a nice PBABIP, and he's got speed. No gap power, but the speed and the defense are both plus for sure.
Yeah, he's probably going to be an easy choice here. I bet,
Ballesteros doesn't look bad.
yeah, pretty solid flat profile. I
I
definitely
mean,
do.
I
It's
don't
funny.
mind a
It's
splitty
funny.
catcher.
It's funny. He's not actually that splitty. It's just that the numbers all cross over that like
Yeah, they're right at
75.
the yellow-green threshold.
So it's pretty funny that it's
Yeah,
like it looks so much worse than it is. But
yeah.
um, what about Albies? I feel like Albies probably has a big gap. I feel like that's general with him. Maybe
Yeah,
not this
gap power,
one.
not a lot of speed though.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, let's go back on him. I was just kind of assuming. Um,
Haggerty's
yeah,
not bad.
fine. Move. Yeah, I like Mo.
Okay.
Ballesteros. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Round the 10th. This is, I think, the last bronze round. We're good on catchers. We have 5 pitchers. I might take a pitcher if one really
Yeah,
jumps
because
out.
we have what 6 picks left in total.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the iron pitchers.
Oh yeah, it
You're
is
you're
certainly bad this year, which is a good
Yeah,
thing. I
you're
think
relying on a lot of luck to get what you hope.
I think the game is more interesting, especially in caps when iron cards are extremely
Yeah.
flawed.
I draft this guy just because his nickname is Piano Mover, and his nickname is Piano Mover. My wife, by the way, will watch the stream and pull out people's nicknames, is because he was a piano mover in the off season.
Mm.
And then I think it's Duran.
Ooh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty solid.
Yeah. All right. Round
All
the
right.
11th.
Ooh, the
Oh,
Fleur is
speaking of
almost certainly very good. Yeah.
yes, although again,
I mean,
he's
yeah,
going to
but
make
this
it
is
exciting.
yeah, but this bat's really good, so
Yeah. Yeah, he
that
is a
feels
plus
like
hitter.
almost certainly a definite one. Um, I mean, probably have to take a picture. We have to take a picture here or next round is my
Cole
guess.
Sulzer should try decaf.
I've been making jokes on my Discord about making like a hot or not for live card pictures
For the
on it, and
lifeguard,
we could
call
put it
it
on the
the
app.
call it the Shane Baz scale.
Oh God, poor guy and his little blonde,
And
his
his
little
like
peach.
1,000-yard stare. Shane Baz has seen things, man.
Yeah.
He's seen things.
What about Gutteridge? What does that card look like? On the
Gutteridge.
left middle. Yep.
No, not compare. I never mean compare game. That's not terrible. Gap power and speed. A
You'll
little
play
bit of
second,
defense.
third, short.
Yeah.
I mean, we also have to think about positions.
Yeah, I think outfield. I mean, although some of
A lot
these
of our guys can
infielders
play.
can
Yeah.
play outfield.
You know what? Let's take Gutteridge because I clicked on
Okay,
him and we only have 2 minutes left. So.
I love it. Alrighty, we've got our two
Ooh,
catchers.
I know someone who you have to take here.
Oh, let me see if I can figure it out.
There's one card that is extremely strong. I think even in this format, he's probably still awesome.
I mean, I don't mind the look of Cole Henry. Oh, here we go.
He's actually not the one I was thinking of because he's new, but that card is nuts in this format.
Yeah, that is a fine
That card
one.
came out yesterday too.
Yeah, that's a happy birthday Nico card.
Sure is.
All right. I mean, I kind of am circling around one of these pitchers,
Well,
but I like this.
That card looks good. You've refused to click the card I was actually thinking of, the Matt Davidson in the bottom left corner. Look at this
Oh,
VL.
yeah, but it's mostly power.
Not really. It's still 109 I,
Yeah, that's
110
true.
gap power,
74.
74. I mean, and he has pitching. Look at his
And he
pitching.
can. Yeah, all right. I didn't even see the pitching. Yeah,
That
that's a good
that,
call. Oh,
that
we
card
only
is
get
that.
one of these though.
Oh, we only get one. Ooh, all right. We have to take the pitcher here.
I think
That's
we have to
fine.
take Nicolino here. Yeah, just to keep me as an affiliate, we have to take a.
All right. So you swear that 7 will work because this is our
Yes,
last chance to take a hitter. Okay, I will believe you. I think we go Al Birch. If I remember correctly, he has like the best defense of like the lower guys.
and not a bad bat either. Yeah, that's a fine card.
Yeah,
Al
I think
Birch.
we could use an outfielder. Um,
Yeah, I like his bat. I think it's the best bat out there. Yeah, I
yeah,
think that's a solid pick. All
and we're
right,
down to 27 seconds left, anyways. So
look at that. All right, now just for proof of concept,
maybe it's
you have
just
to.
4 relievers. Maybe it's just 4 relievers in general, and
Yeah,
not
the
all
rule
formats
is you
allow
have to
3.
have 4 relievers.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's because some of the older formats it defaults you onto 4 starting pitchers, not 3, so that's why you have to
Yeah,
have 8.
yeah.
That makes sense.
For dead ball specifically, it'll let you do the 3-man rotation, but for others, it won't.
Got it. That makes sense.
Well, Seawit, thank you so much for being so generous with your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again,
This was a
friends,
blast.
Seawit's YouTube page. Go watch those videos. Give him a like and a subscribe on there. Seawit's stats page. Buy him a cup of coffee. If you're able, if you have the wherewithal, buy him a cup of coffee. And follow Seawit here on Twitch. When he streams, it is appointment viewing, in my opinion. Seawit, thank you so much for hanging out. We'll stay on for a minute before we get ready to go to franchise, but I want to let you go to bed because we're already over time here.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. This was fun. I am going to
It's
pass
well,
out very shortly after this, but yeah, I had a great time. I am planning on streaming some probably a couple times this week. I don't have much else going on.
I'm gonna have to
And I can
change
definitely
my
use things.
Yuka. I'll change my Yuka banner to Days Until Sea Wit stream.
Well, the Days Until Yuka stream, that one's, you could just put
It's
the infinity sign on there, but
there's a Yuka streams are beautiful and unique flowers. But I just love the chance on this show to get, because we all know affiliates sort of in a two-dimensional way. And so I love to hear about how people found the game, like what they love about baseball, that sort of thing. That's really the stuff that interests me. And so thank you for spending a little time with us and pulling back those curtains.
always. I mean, I like to think I'm very open about talking about pretty much anything. Like there's very little you know, I don't know. I'm a very open person. I'm
I'm a
not
little bummed we didn't get a Seawit exhausted giggle. Those are my favorites. When
you
Seawit
almost
is
got one
doing
right
one of
there,
his
but
like 5 hour, and all
I
of a sudden he's like, ha, 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 ha.
you almost just got one, but I held back. So,
Why do you keep the joy from me, Seawit? All
I'm
right, I'm gonna let you
sorry.
go. Good night.
All right. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
again. Bye. Oh man, that was terrific. Um I've talked with Seawit on Discord some, and I've gotten a chance during his streams and things like that, but it's really fun to be able to have a conversation with these affiliates and to talk on a sort of a different a more human level. I so appreciate that opportunity and so glad that Seawit let that happen. Um, and we will definitely have Seawit on again, because like I said, he, poor guy, he like actually did, or dumb him, he actually did research preparing for our 9 inning draft, and we didn't even do it because we spent so much time talking about all the cool stuff he's done and talking about OOTP models and that sort of thing, which I think is really interesting. um, we will be, let me see here, I'm going to check the calendar because I may not be, we'll be here next week on the 20th. Yes, Perry, 100%. If you have the wherewithal, look, don't subscribe to my crappy channel. Subscribe to Seawit's channel or buy him a cup of coffee. Go do that. It is money much better spent, and it will have a much bigger impact. Our 9 inning draft was going to be we called it no hit wonders. It was players that never made the majors but were like prospects. So we'll do that again. We'll have that in our back pocket for the next time that Seawit is on. I didn't do a lot of research, I'm not gonna lie. Although I did have one player that I really wanted to bust out, because I'm just gonna shout him out here. The one of the names in the Pacific Coast League Hall of Fame is a fantastic name. A pitcher. He was a San Francisco Seal and a Venice/Vernon Tiger. Never made the majors. It was Cac Henley. Cac Henley is a great name and a fantastic picture. Let me put Cac Henley's picture up here. He looks like a Cac Henley. Here we go, Cac Henley. There we go. There's old Cac. He kind of looks like alfalfa. But yes, Cac Henley was definitely going to be on my list. So we will do a 7 inning draft at some other point. I just still really enjoyed that conversation. That was fun. And I got my 5L draft done before we get ready to adult. Yeah, he needs the cowlick, and then he'd be adult alfalfa. He could play ball in suspenders. Did I do my PT live for tomorrow? Now I'm just using my streams to do all the stuff I didn't do today. I think I did my PT live, but let's check. Nope, I did not do my PT Live. Well, let's do that real quick. Now you'll get to see, here for all to see, is how little I know about modern baseball. Now, let me check. I'm not sure that Giants game is going to happen tomorrow. Let's see what the weather is. It a night game? 6:45 tomorrow. Nope. All right. I think that game is going to happen. So for those of you who don't know, I live across the bay from San Francisco. It has been rainy all week, but it looks like the weather tomorrow will clear. So we're going to put Shohei in there. And honestly, I would take a lot of Dodgers versus the Giants, because right now the Giants are not what you'd call good. Do I have anybody starting against the Mets? Because I would start anyone that's starting against the Mets, because the Mets are bad. Yeah, they did win today, but it's, even a broke clock is right twice a day. I'd prefer to have a silver starter here. Kansas City is not very good, but then neither is Baltimore. Pittsburgh is really bad. Yeah. Nico would like a word when I mentioned the Mets not being good. I kind of want to take. The A's are playing slightly better, and Seattle's been pretty bad. That's kind of interesting. The White Sox are not good. Let's take the Diamondbacks are semi-okay. No relievers starting, right? Oh no, there we go. There's a reliever starting. Get Kyle Leahy in your lineup if you have him. All right. Let's the Padres are still at San Diego, so I want to keep Padres in there. Let's pick a reliever here. I feel like relievers are such a crapshoot. I just don't ever. I'm just going to take somebody who's a closer that I think might someday get in there. You know what? I'm going to take Alex Vesia just because he's such a feel-good story. That is the entire rationale for taking him. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy. I can take. Oh wait, why am I failing? Number of diamond cards. So I have 4. Oh yeah, okay. So I got to get rid of a diamond. I'm probably gonna get rid of Schwarber. It's hard to say that Ohtani's gonna lose against that Giants lineup. I have trouble saying that. I have trouble believing that. Let's see. Is there a silver batter or gold, I guess, that's playing at Colorado? Because that's here we go. So let's take the Rockies catcher, Hunter Goodman. That's a little. If just take batters that are playing in Colorado, it's going to help you out. Now, is it too many golds? Gosh, dog it. Who do I want to take out? Probably Ian Happ. But now we're just doing the same dance. So now I need a silver. Anybody here in Colorado playing? I don't think Brenton Doyle's playing much, but let's try it. All right, so that's one PT Live. This is what throws me off. This is my main team. And then I have my PAX only team. on my second account, and I'm started doing PT Live in both of them because it's free perfect points for your PAX only team. So why wouldn't you? Ugh, I haven't done my bagels and schmear draft. Oy. All right, we got to do that real quick. Fudge. See? What was I doing all? Oh, I was working all day. That's what I was doing. Oh no, that's terrible. Yeah, you should not be seeing my face. That is not what you need to be seeing. There we go. Bam. All right. Thank you for telling me that, Barry Basher. The joys of StreamYard. You know, I don't mute myself. I just don't show the game. Ted Williams, I'm always a fan of. This James Shields card, pretty tasty. I'm going to take James Shield. Just for A-Dub. Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you. Could have been bad. So this is semi-dead ball. We are in 1935, and we're in an offensive park, but it's still mostly dead ball. Wow, I'm gonna go James Shields and Satch and hope that bitching will take me a long way. And now maybe let me take Larry Doby because that's a nice dead ball shape. Oh, it's my old buddy Elmer Flick. Was it 25? I think it was OOTP 25. Elmer Flick, that perfect flick, which led to I got to tell Lap that he just got flicked. Made me very happy. I'm gonna take Elmer Flick just for the memories. Memories like the corners of our eyes. Don't tell Dynastic, but I'm a big Hindu fan. So I'm gonna take Hindu. I also kind of like this Dave Nielsen. Better, I like him better in the 6L, I have to say. Doc Wiley, a little gap power and speed. Let's take Doc Wiley. Bug Holiday is a fantastic name. Ooh, maybe I should take Frank Schneider. No gap power and speed, but he's just a base hit machine and a good defensive catcher. Let's take Frank Snyder. All right. A 200 PBABIP versus lefties. That's kind of bonkers. I got to take him just for that. Get the purple. Man, I wish I hadn't taken Dave Nielsen now. This guy is a better version of Dave Nielsen. Do I just take him? Yeah, yes. Well, no, that's what I heard. I thought I heard. I don't think it counts for your team because I thought I heard Seawit say Frank Reynolds, and I was looking for the card, and there was not one. So I don't think Hooked on Phonics gets him. Sorry. Yeah, I guess I had Danny DeVito on the brain. Don't mind this Consuerga card. I gotta watch. By the way, we are gonna raid over to Franchise Time Machine as soon as I'm done with this. But I want to give a shout out because I'm gonna watch it tomorrow while I work. But apparently, yesterday, Franchise did a experiment about fly ball, ground ball pitchers and the impact, and that is something we were just talking about. So I think that is well worth some time to check out. So give Franchise when you head over there. Make sure you check out that VOD at some point. I don't love this round. Ooh, I love it. Well, I love it when like the results are so surprising that franchises like we got to run that back. That's always fun. Rondell White is not terrible. And then I mean, it's a reverse at least, but I think we're going to take Roosevelt Davis. Okay. So I want maybe 8 to 10 pitchers for this one. Probably 10 is where I usually land. I don't love that, but that's not terrible. Braves legend Bruce Chen. Waddy, waddy, waddy. I don't mind Sammy Hughes and some defense there. And then I think we'll take McGinnity. All right, that's 7 pitchers. We're in round 9. I don't love this Robin Roberts. That gives one pause. I mean, Mike Stanton, I think we'll take, if only just for the awesome picture of Shar. I'd take Robert Stevenson if he had a Lewis in there. If we could get Robert Louis Stevenson, I'd take him. My favorite database error, Dave Pope. I I think I remember how to time you out, Cardinal fan. I think. Ooh, Garcia is pretty nice. Let's take Garcia. Ooh, I need infielders. I only have 2 infielders? What am I doing? I think I am going to take Leach just because of that. Tommy Leach. Lifestyles of the rich and famous. Bob Miller is another like bonkers reliever. I'll take him. I can take Dimitri Young just to play first base. Or, stand at third. I think we'll do that. Can any of my catchers play? Nope. That's too bad. All right, 9 pitchers. The Bronze Jackie is not my favorite card. We'll take Ted Trent. Eric Milton I like for the 5L, not so much for the 6L. I don't mind Don Clendenin, but I just took a first baseman. So less excited about taking him. I don't love this round. I guess I'll take Alex Wilson. Gee, Mr. Wilson. That's 11 pitchers. All right, that's not bad. We'll try him. And then I quite like this Jose Hernandez card. I'm a fan. So we'll take him. Look at this. 3 minutes left. 12 pitchers. So if one of these pitchers... Oh, why did I take so many pitchers? Remember what draft you're doing. That's my big advice to you. Remember what draft you're doing. We're going to have way too many pitchers. But you know what? It's fine. We'll use them. We'll use them all. And then we'll take Julio. Oh, I get 2 of these. I don't want 2 of these. I don't think. You can sort of play third. I guess you're a pinch hitter. Okay. I have started experimenting with just like playing like Casey Stingles in some tournaments for the heck of it. All right, we're gonna go 4-man rotation here. Okay. There's our bagel and schmear. All right, we are going to raid over to my buddy Franchise, who is going to rerun that very interesting. I'm excited to see what the results are. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thank you, Seawit, for being so generous with your time and staying up late with us. And we will be back tomorrow. And next week, Franchise Time Machine will be on here. We'll be talking the overview of sort of his experiments and what he's noticed with the game engine. It'll be the other side of the data argument here with Seawit. I'm looking forward to that conversation a great deal, if only because maybe he'll leave my living room. You'd think he would, all the leaks in our attic with all this rain would have chased him out, but we'll find out. All right, I will see you over at Franchise's stream. And I'll be back tomorrow with more OOTP After Dark. Goodbye, Internet friends.